Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto was the Anodite sage, the progenitor of the foe. Ex-god Bloodline Naruto x Charmcaster Ben 10. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Awakening of the Cosmos. The cracked earth beneath Naruto's feet pulsed with residual chakra as he knelt to examine the scorched pattern. Complex symbols, unlike any shinobi seal he recognized, spiraled outward from a central point. 3 days ago, villagers had reported strange lights and earth tremors in this remote valley beyond Konoha's eastern border. As the Hokage's most trusted Jonin, such investigations now fell to him. Whoever made this wasn't using any standard jutsu, Naruto murmured, running calloused fingers along one blackened curve. The marking tingled against his skin, not unpleasant but unfamiliar. Almost nostalgic. 6 years had passed since the Fourth Great Ninja War. 6 years since Kagaya's defeat. 6 years of rebuilding, of diplomatic missions, of Naruto earning respect not through battlefield heroics but through the more challenging work of peacetime leadership. His 23rd birthday had come and gone last month with little fanfare, just the way he preferred it now. He straightened, scanning the deserted clearing. Wind whispered through autumn-touched leaves, carrying no scent of immediate danger. Still, something about this place set his nerves on edge. Kurama stirred within him, the Nine-Tails consciousness brushing against his own with unusual alertness. You feel it too, huh? Naruto thought toward his tenant. This energy. Kurama's voice rumbled in his mind, uncharacteristically hesitant. It's familiar, yet I cannot place it. Older than me, perhaps. That gave Naruto pause. Few things predated the tailed beasts. A glint of crystalline material caught his attention. Embedded in the ground at the pattern's center sat a fragment no larger than his thumb, transparent, faintly pink, radiating an energy that hummed in harmony with something deep inside him. The moment his fingers closed around the crystal, Naruto's world exploded in golden pink light. Miles away, across dimensions incomprehensible to human minds, Hope, better known as Charmcaster, completed the final stroke of her transdimensional array. The sorceress stepped back, silver hair falling across her face as she critically assessed her work. The abandoned observatory had proven perfect for her purposes, isolated, positioned at a natural convergence of ley lines, and equipped with an antique telescope that aligned precisely with the constellation she needed. If Gwendolyn can manipulate dimensional boundaries, so can I, she muttered, adjusting the carved obsidian figurines positioned at 5 points around her chalk-drawn pentagram. Years spent as Legerdemain's ruler had taught Charmcaster much about the fundamental nature of mana, the life energy that powered magic across all dimensions. But her home dimension remained frustratingly sealed to her, protected by barriers she couldn't breach without the Alpha Rune. Tonight's ritual would change that. Moonlight streamed through the observatory's open dome, illuminating the pages of her grimoire. Ancient Anodite symbols covered the yellowed parchment, symbols stolen from Gwen Tennyson's personal library during their last encounter. Symbols that could, theoretically, grant a CCESS to the pure mana dimension from which Anodites drew their power. Tempus Aperio, Dimensio Revelare, she began, voice steady despite the magic already crackling around her fingertips. Porta Manifestum, Via Patrio. The chalk lines ignited with magenta flame. Charmcaster continued her incantation, drawing upon years of magical knowledge and the pure force of her will. The obsidian figures began to hover, spinning slowly around the pentagram's circumference. Anodyne Illuminato, Potentia Absoluta. Her voice rose above the gathering whirlwind of energy. Transitum Concedo. Something snapped, not within her spell, but within the fabric of reality itself. The magenta flames flared brilliant gold, a color Charmcaster had never before witnessed in magical manifestation. The observatory's walls seemed to bend inward, reality distorting like a reflection in troubled water. No, this isn't right, she hissed, frantically flipping through her grimoire. The convergence should be stable, not. A pulse of energy knocked her backward. The spinning obsidian figures shattered, and the pentagram's flames shot upward in a twisting column of golden pink light. Charmcaster felt herself lifted, dimensions folding around her like origami in expert hands. Her last thought before consciousness fled was that she'd been correct about one thing: she'd definitely broken through to another dimension. Just not the one she'd intended. The crystal in Naruto's hand had become a miniature sun, its light pulsating in perfect synchronization with his heartbeat. He tried to drop it, but his muscles refused to obey. The scorched pattern beneath his feet now glowed with the same golden-pink radiance, its symbols rearranging themselves into configurations that somehow felt right to him, though he'd never seen them before. Naruto. Kurama's voice roared in his mind. Something's happening to the seal. Pain lanced through Naruto's abdomen where the nine-tails seal had been placed at birth. But this wasn't the familiar sensation of Kurama's chakra burning through him. This felt like recognition. As though something within him was awakening after a long slumber, reaching out to the crystal, to the symbols. To whatever force had created them. Kurama, what's happening to me? He gasped aloud, dropping to one knee as golden pink energy began to coat his skin like living armor. Your chakra is changing. The fox's voice sounded distant, confused. It's not changing. It's remembering. Naruto had no time to question this cryptic statement before the ground beneath him cracked open. The glowing pattern shattered, and from its center erupted a pillar of light that engulfed him completely. Within that column, Naruto felt his consciousness expanding, stretching beyond his physical form to touch something else, someone else. For an instant that contained eternity, Naruto perceived another mind, sharp, knowledgeable, feminine, reaching through the same-dimensional corridor that had seized him. Their energies collided, intertwined, recognized something kindred in each other. Then reality snapped back into focus with catastrophic force. The explosion leveled trees for a half-mile radius. When Naruto regained consciousness, the forest clearing had become a smoldering crater. He lay at its center, body humming with energy unlike anything he'd experienced before. Not chakra, or not just chakra. Something more fundamental, more cosmic. And he wasn't alone. 20 feet away, a woman with silver hair and pale skin lay unconscious amid the debris. Her unusual purple attire, somewhere between battle gear and ceremonial robes, marked her as neither civilian nor shinobi of any village Naruto recognized. A small leather-bound book remained clutched in her hand, undamaged despite the surrounding destruction. Naruto attempted to stand, then froze in shock. His body glowed with a translucent aura of golden pink energy, visible even through his clothing. More disturbingly, he could sense, a similar aura surrounding the unconscious woman, though hers pulsed magenta rather than gold. Naruto. Kurama's voice had returned, but changed somehow, more resonant. Almost reverent. Look at your reflection. Shakily, Naruto moved to a puddle formed by the recent autumn rains. The face that stared back made him stumble backward in shock. His whisker markings had deepened, gaining definition like actual fur rather than facial scars. His blue eyes now held swirling galaxies of gold and pink within their depths. Most startlingly, his spiky blonde hair now appeared to be made of living energy, flowing and shifting like liquid sunshine. What am I? He whispered. Something I had forgotten was possible, Kurama replied. Something older than the Sage of Six Paths himself. A groan from the silver-haired woman interrupted their conversation. Naruto quickly moved toward her, his shinobi training reasserting itself through the shock. Friend or foe, she was injured and connected to whatever had just happened. Her eyes fluttered open, striking violet orbs that widened immediately upon seeing him. She bled backward with surprising agility for someone who'd just survived an interdimensional explosion. Anodite, she gasped, raising her hands defensively. Pink energy crackled between her fingertips. How did you? Wait. You're not a full Anodite. What are you? Naruto raised his palms in the universal gesture of peace. I was hoping you might help answer that question. He kept his voice calm despite the bizarre circumstances. I'm Naruto Uzumaki of Konohagakure. And you are. The woman hesitated, eyes darting around the destroyed clearing as she assessed her situation. Finally, she lowered her hand slightly, though the energy didn't dissipate. You can call me Charmcaster, she said cautiously. And it seems my dimensional portal spell went very wrong, or perhaps very right. Her gaze sharpened. This isn't Earth, is it? Earth. Naruto frowned. This is the land of fire. One of the 5 great nations. Charmcaster's laugh held no humor. Definitely not my dimension, then. She struggled to her feet, clutching her book protectively to her chest. Fascinating. You appear human but possess Anodite energy signatures. Yet this world clearly isn't anodyne. I don't know what an Anodite is, Naruto admitted, acutely aware that his body still glowed with otherworldly energy. But I'd appreciate if you could tell me why I suddenly look like this. Their conversation halted abruptly as both sensed movement in the forest beyond the crater. Naruto recognized the approaching chakra signatures immediately. Anbu Black Ops, Konoha's elite special forces, responding to the massive energy discharge. We're about to have company, he warned. And they might not be as willing to talk as I am. Charmcaster's eyes narrowed. Are they like you? No. Naruto hesitated, realizing he needed this woman's knowledge. Look, I don't know what's happening to me, but I think you do. I can protect you, give you sanctuary in my village, but only if you cooperate. Protect me, she scoffed, magic swirling more intensely around her hands. You have no idea what I'm capable of. And you have no idea where you are, Naruto countered, allowing just enough of Kurama's presence to sharpen his features. This world has dangers you can't imagine. I'm offering alliance, not charity. For a tense moment, Charmcaster seemed prepared to fight. Then, with visible reluctance, she extinguished the magenta energy around her hands. Fine. Temporary alliance. Her violet eyes glittered dangerously. But try to imprison me, and you'll learn exactly how I earned my name. Naruto nodded, then turned toward the approaching Anbu. As he did, he forced the golden pink aura to recede, concentrating on appearing normal. The energy resisted, but eventually subsided to a faint glow visible only if one looked closely. Just in time, 4 masked figures dropped into the crater's edge, their porcelain animal masks concealing all emotion. Uzumaki-san, the bear-masked leader acknowledged. We detected an unprecedented chakra surge. Are you injured? I'm fine, Naruto assured them. Just investigating an unusual phenomenon. This is, he gestured to Charmcaster, improvising quickly. A specialist I've brought in to help analyze it. Please inform Kakashi-sama that I'll report directly to him once we've secured the site. The Anbu captain's mask tilted slightly, the only indication of potential skepticism, but decades of rigid hierarchy prevailed. Naruto's status as war hero and the Hokage's most trusted advisor carried sufficient authority. Understood. Do you require assistance? No. But establish a perimeter. No one enters this area without my or the Hokage's explicit permission. With synchronized nods, the Anbu vanished as swiftly as they'd appeared. Charmcaster raised an eyebrow, reassessing the blonde shinobi. They follow your orders without question, she observed. You hold significant power in this world. Naruto shrugged. Respect, not power. There's a difference. Less than you might think, Charmcaster murmured. She swayed slightly, the aftereffects of interdimensional travel finally catching up to her. Naruto moved to steady her, but hesitated. May I? The sorceress blinked, surprised by the request for permission, then nodded tersely. His hand on her elbow stabilized her, and the moment they touched, both gasped at the resonance between their energies, his golden pink, hers magenta, recognizing each other like long-separated siblings. What was that? Naruto asked quietly. Charmcaster stared at him with new intensity. That, Naruto Uzumaki, confirms you possess Anodite energy. Pure life energy. What my people call mana. The source of all magic. We don't have magic here, he said automatically. We use chakra, physical and spiritual energy combined through hand signs to create jutsu. Interesting semantic distinction, she replied dryly. But that golden pink energy signature is unmistakable. In my dimension, it belongs exclusively to Anodites, beings of pure energy who can manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. Naruto frowned, processing this against what he knew of his world's history. Could this be connected to the Sage of Six Paths? He was the first to use chakra, to pass it to humanity. Perhaps he channeled it, shaped it, Charmcaster said thoughtfully, but that energy I sensed in you. That's primordial, universal. It exists in all dimensions, though few can access it directly. Her eyes narrowed. What's inside you is the source, not the derivative. Before Naruto could question this further, Kurama's voice resonated through his consciousness. She speaks truth, Naruto. I have remembered what was hidden from even me. The Nine Tails' mental voice carried uncharacteristic awe. The sage did not create chakra. He merely harnessed what already existed in nature, what already existed in you. That's impossible, Naruto whispered, forgetting Charmcaster couldn't hear his internal conversation. I wasn't born until long after. Not you as Naruto. You as the essence that has been reborn countless times. The essence that fragmented into what became the tailed beasts. The revelation hit Naruto like a Rasengan to the chest. He staggered backward, eyes wide with disbelief. What is it? Charmcaster demanded, witnessing his shock. The Nine Tails, Naruto managed. Kurama, he's saying I'm not just his host. I'm his source. The sorceress's expression shifted from suspicion to fascination. Nine Tails, host. Perhaps you should explain your world's peculiarities before we continue this discussion about your nature. Naruto nodded, centering himself. You're right, and not here. He gestured to the devastated clearing. Can you travel? I know a place we can speak freely. Lead the way, Charmcaster agreed, though her posture remained guarded. But remember our agreement. Alliance, not capture. With a nod, Naruto led her from the crater. Struggling to maintain his composure as Kurama continued feeding him fragments of ancient memories of a time before the tailed beasts, before the sage, before chakra as the world knew it. Memories of cosmic energy taking form, dividing, evolving. Memories that couldn't possibly be his, yet felt more intimately familiar than his own childhood. The abandoned Uzumaki shrine stood 3 miles from the explosion site, hidden within a dense copse of ancient trees. Its weathered stone walls bore faded ceiling arrays, not enough to keep out determined intruders, but sufficient to alert Naruto should anyone approach. More importantly, the shrine existed in a curious blind spot in Konoha's surveillance network, an oversight Naruto had never bothered to report. These symbols, Charmcaster observed, running her fingers over a spiral pattern carved into the entryway. They resonate with your energy signature. The Uzumaki clan specialized in sealing techniques, Naruto explained, lighting oil lamps that cast warm, flickering light across the dusty interior. I'm one of the last. The shrine consisted of a single circular room with a stone altar at its center. Cushions, scrolls, and personal items scattered around the edges suggested Naruto used this place regularly. Not as living quarters, but as sanctuary, somewhere to escape the constant attention his status attracted in the village. Charmcaster moved immediately to examine the scrolls, her scholar's curiosity overcoming caution. These contain magical formulas, she noted with surprise. Primitive by legerdemain standards, but definitively magical in structure. Sealing jutsu, Naruto corrected automatically. And careful, some are booby-trapped. The sorceress withdrew her hand with a snort. Paranoid, aren't you? Prepared. Naruto settled cross-legged on a cushion, gesturing for her to join him. Now, I believe we both have questions. Charmcaster chose a cushion opposite him, arranging her purple robes with practiced dignity. Up close, Naruto noticed the exhaustion beneath her confident exterior, the slight tremor in her hands, the tightness around her eyes. Interdimensional travel had taken its toll. You mentioned a Nine Tails. She prompted. Explain. Naruto considered where to begin. In our world, there exist 9-tailed beasts, massive creatures of pure chakra, each with different numbers of tails. I am the Jinchuriki, the human host, of the strongest, the 9-tailed fox, Kurama. A being of pure energy, contained within a human vessel, Charmcaster summarized. Fascinating adaptation of standard containment spells. But you said you're the source. According to Kurama, yes, though I don't understand how. Naruto frowned. The tailed beasts were created by the Sage of Six Paths thousands of years ago, splitting the 10 tails into 9 entities. I was born only 23 years ago. Charmcaster's eyes gleamed with intellectual excitement. Reincarnation is common enough among powerful energy beings. In my dimension, Anodites can live for thousands of years, but their essence persists even longer, sometimes taking new forms across generations. I'm not an Anodite, Naruto insisted. I'm human. My parents were human. Were they? Charmcaster challenged. Or did they simply appear human? True Anodites can manifest human forms, complete with DNA indistinguishable from ordinary humans. It's how they integrate into other species. Naruto fell silent, confronting possibilities that challenged everything he thought he knew about himself. His mother had been the previous Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. His father, the fourth Hokage, had been renowned for his unique chakra that allowed teleportation jutsu beyond what any other shinobi could achieve. Were these traits merely coincidences? She speaks truth again. Kurama rumbled within him. When I was sealed inside your mother, I sensed something familiar about her chakra, something beyond her Uzumaki heritage. And your father's yellow flash technique. No human should have been capable of such manipulation of space-time without external power. If what you're saying is true, Naruto said slowly, addressing both Charmcaster and Kurama. Then what am I supposed to be? What does it mean? The sorceress leaned forward, her scholarly detachment momentarily replaced by genuine wonder. It means, Naruto Uzumaki, that you may be the progenitor of this world's entire energy system. The original source from which all your chakra derives. She gestured to his abdomen where the nine-tails seal lay hidden. Your tailed beast isn't just contained within you, it's a fragment of you that's finally recognizing its origin. The implications staggered Naruto. If true, it meant every jutsu, every kekkei genkei, every manifestation of chakra throughout history connected back to the same source, to him, or whatever cosmic entity he represented. How do I control it? He asked practically. The philosophical questions could wait. The golden-pink energy still simmering beneath his skin presented a more immediate concern. That depends, Charmcaster replied, her analytical mind already working through the problem. Full Anodites in my dimension manipulate mana instinctively. But you're clearly a hybrid case, human form with awakening Anodite powers. You'll need to learn conscious control techniques. She reached for her grimoire, flipping through pages covered in symbols similar to those that had appeared in the forest clearing. I can teach you the fundamentals, she continued, though our application may differ in this dimension. First, you must understand the distinction between creating energy and directing energy that already exists. For the next hour, Charmcaster explained conk. EPTS of mana manipulation while Naruto listened with intense concentration. Despite her initially hostile attitude, the sorceress proved an articulate teacher, drawing parallels to chakra control that helped bridge their different understandings. Your jutsu create effects by shaping chakra, she explained. Anodite abilities shape reality itself by manipulating the energy that comprises it. Less structured, but potentially far more powerful. Naruto nodded, experimenting with calling forth small amounts of the golden pink energy to his palm. Unlike chakra, which felt like drawing from an internal reservoir, this energy seemed to flow through him from everywhere at once, as though he were a conduit rather than a container. It responds to intent more than specific technique, he observed, allowing the energy to form a perfect sphere above his hand. Exactly. Charmcaster watched with grudging respect as he demonstrated control few novices could manage. Your experience with chakra gives you an advantage. You understand energy discipline already. Their session ended abruptly as Naruto sensed multiple chakra signatures approaching the shrine, familiar ones. The Hokage, he said, standing quickly. And Shikamaru. Charmcaster tensed, magic crackling defensively around her fingers. Your leaders, friends, Naruto corrected, though he understood her wariness. But yes, also Konoha's leadership. Kakashi Hatake is our sixth Hokage, our village leader. Shikamaru Nara is his chief advisor and strategist. And if they consider me a threat, they won't, Naruto assured her with more confidence than he felt. Not if you don't give them reason to. He moved toward the shrine entrance, then paused, turning back to the silver-haired sorceress. One request. Don't mention the Anodite theory immediately. Let me explain the dimensional rift first. This information, it affects more than just me. Charmcaster considered him for a moment, then nodded. Political complications. I understand those well enough. A hint of bitterness colored her voice. Very well. I'll follow your lead, for now. Naruto stepped outside just as Kakashi and Shikamaru reached the shrine's clearing. The sixth Hokage had abandoned his formal robes for his standard Jonin attire, complete with the mask that had become legendary throughout the shinobi world. Beside him, Shikamaru's purport. Ally bored expression didn't quite conceal the sharp intelligence in his eyes as they assessed the situation. Naruto, Kakashi greeted casually, though his gaze missed nothing. When Anbu reported, "You'd discovered a specialist at the site of an explosion powerful enough to register in 4 countries, I thought perhaps we should meet them." "Troublesome as always," Shikamaru added with a sigh that fooled no one. "Kakashi-sensei, Shikamaru," Naruto acknowledged, defaulting to familiar forms of address. "This is Charmcaster. She's not from our world." To their credit, neither man showed much surprise. After Kagaya and the Fourth War, interdimensional visitors registered as unusual but not incomprehensible. "Another Otsutsuki?" Kakashi asked quietly, tension evident despite his casual posture. "No," Naruto assured him quickly. "Nothing like that. Her world is completely different from ours or the Otsutsuki dimensions. She arrived accidentally through a rift caused by her world's version of jutsu, they call it magic." Quote, Charmcaster had emerged from the shrine, maintaining a respectful distance while studying the newcomers with undisguised curiosity. "Your energy signatures are fascinating," she commented. "Similar fundamentals to Naruto's, but structured differently." Shikamaru's eyes narrowed. "You can see chakra without a dojutsu." "I see mana. Life energy in its purest form," Charmcaster corrected. "What you call chakra appears as a derived form, shaped by your physiological evolution." "Mana," Kakashi repeated thoughtfully. "And this accidental arrival, can it be reversed?" The question hung in the air, its implications clear. If Charmcaster could return to her dimension, would the knowledge she'd gained about their world go with her? Would others from her reality follow? Theoretically, she answered carefully, but the conditions that created the rift were unique. Replicating them would require significant power and precise calculations. She glanced at Naruto, and there are complications we're still understanding, such as, Shikamaru prompted. Naruto took a deep breath. The explosion wasn't just from Charmcaster's arrival. Something happened to me when I touched a crystal at the site. Something that's connected to Kurama, to all the tailed beasts, and possibly to the origin of chakra itself. Silence followed this statement. Kakashi, eyes visible eye fixed on Naruto with the intensity that had earned him the moniker, Copy Ninja, long before becoming Hokage. "Show us," he said simply. Naruto nodded, closing his eyes to concentrate. The golden pink energy responded more readily this time, flowing over his skin like liquid sunlight. When he opened his eyes, now swirling with cosmic energy, both Kakashi and Shikamaru took involuntary steps backward. "That's not Kurama's chakra," Shikamaru stated, mind already racing through possibilities. "No," Naruto agreed, "it's something older. According to Kurama, it might be the Origina L energy that the Sage of Six Paths shaped into what we now call chakra. And according to my understanding," Charmcaster added, "it's Anodite energy, the foundation of all magical systems across multiple dimensions." Kakashi's expression remained inscrutable behind his mask, but years of association allowed Naruto to read the subtle tension in his posture. The Hokage was calculating threats, advantages, political implications. "Can you control it?" he asked finally. Naruto demonstrated by shaping the energy into various forms above his palm: sphere, cube, pyramid, complex spiral. "Better than when it first manifested. Charmcaster has been teaching me the principles." "And what does the Nine Tails make of all this?" "Tell him," Kurama prompted. "He says." Naruto hesitated, still processing the implications himself. "He says the tailed beasts weren't created from the 10 tails. They were fragmented from this energy, my energy, and given form by the sage. They're returning to their source." Shikamaru cursed softly. "If the other Jinchuriki learn this, the balance of power shifts dramatically," Kakashi finished, his analytical mind already 3 steps ahead. "Every Hida-en village will want access to this original chakra, if they believe it exists. Which is why," Naruto said firmly, "this stays between us for now. Until we understand it completely." The autumn wind whispered through the trees surrounding the shrine, nature oblivious to the world-changing conversation taking place. In the distance, Konoha continued its evening routines, civilians and shinobi like unaware that the fundamental understanding of their world's power system faced unprecedented revision. "Agreed," Kakashi said finally. "But we need to understand more." Quickly, he turned to Charmcaster. "As Hokage of Konohagakure, I extend formal sanctuary in exchange for your knowledge and cooperation. Will you accept? The sorceress raised an eyebrow, impressed by the directness. I accept, with the condition that I remain free to continue my own research. If dimensional rifts are forming, they potentially threaten both our worlds. Fair enough. Kakashi turned to his advisor. Shikamaru, arrange suitable accommodations, somewhere secure but comfortable, and find a cover story for our visitor's presence. Visiting scholar from a distant land, Shikamaru suggested automatically. Researching ancient chakra theories, close enough to truth to be sustainable. Naruto felt a surge of gratitude toward his friends. Despite the shocking revelations, they were adapting, planning, supporting. It reminded him why Konoha had always been worth fighting for, not its structures or systems, but the people who faced each crisis with unwavering solidarity. There's one more thing, he said, recalling an important detail. The crystal that triggered this, it's still at the explosion site. I'll retrieve it personally, Kakashi decided. Shikamaru, escort our guest to the village. Naruto, you should. The Hokage's instructions cut off abruptly as all four sensed a massive surge of energy from the direction of the explosion site. Unlike the controlled chakra signatures of shinobi, this presence felt wild, predatory, and distinctly non-human. Naruto's newly heightened senses provided more detail than the others could perceive. A creature of pure energy, drawn to the dimensional weakness, hunting. Something's come through another rift, he stated grimly. Something that feeds on mana. Charmcaster paled. Darkstar. No. This feels different. More bestial. Her expression hardened into determination. Whatever it is, it's likely tracking me. The residual mana from my transit would be like a beacon. Then we face it together, Naruto decided, the golden pink energy flaring brighter around him. Kakashi-sensei. Shikamaru, your jutsu might be ineffective against an interdimensional predator. Let us handle this. The Hokage considered the situation with the swift calculation that had kept him alive through decades of shinobi warfare. Agreed, but we'll provide support. If this creature threatens Konoha, we need to understand its capabilities. No further discussion was needed. All four moved in synchronized purpose toward the energy disturbance, Naruto and Charmcaster taking point with their unique abilities at the ready. The forest blurred beneath them as they traveled with shinobi speed, Charmcaster keeping pace through what she called a levitation charm. Within minutes, they reached the crater's edge, just in time to witness the Anbu perimeter RDS being flung aside by invisible forces. At the center stood a creature that defied conventional description. It resembled a wolf in basic structure, but its body comprised swirling darkness punctuated by points of light like distant stars. Where its eyes should be, twin vortices of hungry purple energy spun, drawing visible streams of mana from the surrounding environment. Plants withered as it passed, their life energy consumed to fuel its manifestation. An Aetherus hound, Charmcaster breathed, genuine fear crossing her features. They hunt Anodites across dimensions. I've only read about them, they're supposed to be extinct. Quote, the creature's starfield head turned toward them, those vortex eyes fixing unerringly on Naruto. It howled, a sound that existed simultaneously as noise and as painful disruption in the mana field itself. It senses you, Charmcaster realized. The awakening Anodite energy is like a beacon to it. The hound charged, covering 50 meters in an eye blink. Kakashi and Shikamaru leapt aside, hands already forming jutsu signs despite Naruto's warning. The shadow possession technique stretched forth from Shikamaru while Kakashi's lightning blade crackled to life, both passing harmlessly through the creature's semi-corporeal form. Naruto stood his ground, instinctively channeling the golden pink energy into a barrier before him. The Aetherus hound crashed against it, energy meeting energy in a spectacular collision that sent shockwaves rippling through the forest. Physical attacks won't work, Charmcaster shouted, already tracing complex symbols in the air. Tempestus erectum. A cyclone of magenta-tinted wind erupted around the creature, containing it momentarily. The sorceress turned to Naruto, her academic detachment replaced by battlefield focus. Listen carefully, she instructed. Aetherus hounds exist partially in the mana dimension. They can only be banished by forcing them fully into either reality, ours or the energy plane. How? Naruto demanded, maintaining his shield as the hound began breaking through Charmcaster's cyclone. We need to overload it with more mana than it can process, forcing corporeal manifestation, then seal it. Her eyes darted to the shinobi. Your friend's sealing techniques might work then, but first we need to make it fully physical. Naruto nodded, understanding immediately. Kakashi-sensei, Shikamaru, be ready with containment seals when I give the signal. Without waiting for confirmation, he dropped his shield and reached deep within himself, past chakra, past Kurama, into the well's ing of golden pink energy that had always existed at his core, unrecognized until now. I'll help you, Kit, Kurama rumbled, his chakra merging with Naruto's mana in unprecedented harmony. Together. The transformation happened faster this time. Naruto's body became a vessel for pure cosmic energy, hair flowing like liquid light, eyes containing galaxies. But unlike the first awakening, he maintained perfect awareness and control, directing the power with precision born from years of chakra mastery. Charmcaster stared in astonishment. Impossible, she murmured. No novice Anodite show LD be able to channel that much power without losing their physical form. The Aetherus hound sensed the surge of energy and hesitated in its attack, predatory instinct warring with self-preservation. The feast before it had suddenly become potentially lethal. Naruto didn't give it time to decide. With a gesture that felt as natural as breathing, he projected a massive wave of golden pink energy, not as attack, but as offering. Irresistible, overwhelming. The creature lunged for the energy, cosmic jaws opening to impossible proportions. It consumed greedily, its starfield body brightening, solidifying with each passing second as it gorged itself on more mana than it had encountered in centuries. Now, Naruto shouted when the hound achieved complete physical manifestation, its spectral nature overwhelmed by excessive energy. Kakashi and Shikamaru moved with perfect coordination, unrolling sealing scrolls around the creature. Their hands blurred through signs as they channeled chakra into containment formulas specifically designed for tailed beast suppression. Fuinjutsu. Cosmic Containment Prison. Kakashi intoned, improvising a name for the hybrid technique they were creating on the fly. Shikamaru's shadow stitched the seal patterns together, creating a three-dimensional matrix that contracted around the now solid Aetherus hound. The creature howled in fury as its movement became restricted. Cosmic body compressed into increasingly limited space. Charmcaster added her own magic to the effort, violet symbols overlaying the shinobi seals to create a hybrid containment that addressed both dimensional aspects of the predator. Interdimencio Silicus, she called, completing the magic circle with a final gesture. The combined sealing techniques compressed to a single point. The Aetherus hound's physical form collapsing into a small crystalline structure, identical to the one Naruto had found earlier, though this one pulsed with malevolent purple energy rather than golden pink. Silence fell over the crater as the four fighters stared at the imprisoned interdimensional predator. The crystal hovered a foot above the ground, contained within a matrix of seals and magical barriers that glowed with combined chakra and mana. Will it hold? Shikamaru asked pragmatically, already calculating contingencies. Indefinitely, with proper maintenance, Charmcaster confirmed. Approaching the containment field cautiously. Though I've never seen Fuinjutsu and magic combined so effectively before. The synergy is remarkable. As is what we just witnessed, Kakashi noted quietly. His gaze fixed on Naruto as the golden pink energy gradually receded, returning him to normal appearance. That transformation, Naruto nodded, understanding the unspoken question. It's getting easier to control. More natural. He looked to Charmcaster. You called it impossible. The sorceress was examining him with renewed interest, scholarly excitement overcoming her earlier suspicions. For a hybrid Anodite to channel that much power without losing physical form. Yes, it should be impossible. Unless what? Shikamaru prompted when she hesitated. Unless you're not a hybrid at all, she said slowly. But a true Anodite who's chosen to maintain human form for so long that you've forgotten your original nature. Her violet eyes narrowed in speculation. The true progenitors of Anodite energy can manipulate reality at its fundamental level. They don't just use mana. They are mana, choosing physical form as humans might choose clothing. The implications settled heavily over the group. If Charmcaster's theory was correct, then Naruto wasn't merely connected to the source of chakra, he was the source, an entity so ancient and powerful that it had forgotten its own nature over countless incarnations. The fox god, Kakashi murmured, connecting mythological dots. Ancient legends speak of a cosmic fox deity who brought knowledge and power to humanity, then divided itself to live among them. Kurama, Naruto whispered, reaching internally to his lifelong tenant. Is that what you've been trying to tell me? I remembered only fragments. The Nine Tails responded, his mental voice carrying uncharacteristic reverence. When the sage separated the 10 tails, he didn't create us, he freed us. Freed aspects of your original consciousness that had been imprisoned within the husk of what you once were. This is speculation, Shikamaru cautioned, ever the pragmatist. Fascinating, potentially world-changing speculation, but still theoretical. Then we need more information, Kakashi decided. And time to process what we've learned. He gestured to the crystallized Aetherus hound. This creature provides evidence that interdimensional travel is possible, and potentially threatens both our worlds. The rifts will continue, Charmcaster warned. My arrival and this hunter are likely just the beginning. When dimensions start bleeding into each other, the process accelerates unless properly contained. Naruto looked between his companions, Kakashi with his measured caution, Shikamaru with his analytical skepticism, Charmcaster with her arcane knowledge. Each brought unique perspective to a situation with no precedent in recorded history. Then we contain it, he stated with quiet determination. Together, whatever I am, human, Jinchuriki, or something else entirely, I won't let either world suffer because of it. The golden pink energy flickered briefly across his skin, responding to his resolve. In that moment, regardless of cosmic origins or forgotten identities, Naruto remained what he had always been at heart, a protector, committed to peace beyond the boundaries of dimension or understanding. As night fell over the forest, the 4 unlikely allies gathered the crystallized predator and made their way back to Konoha. Naruto felt the weight of new knowledge settling upon him, not as burden, but as purpose. If he truly was connected to the source of all chakra, then the responsibility to protect both worlds from dimensional instability fell naturally to him. Whatever came next, whatever revelations awaited, he would face them as he'd faced every challenge, with unwavering determination and the support of those who stood beside him. Even if those allies now included an interdimensional sorceress with her own mysterious agenda. Charmcaster walked slightly apart from the others, her mind racing with implications beyond what she'd shared. The shinobi world's chakra system, the tailed beasts, his extraordinary blonde human who might be far more than human, all connected to the Anodite energy she'd spent her life studying. If Naruto truly was an original manifestation of mana given conscious form, then he represented power beyond anything in her dimension, beyond Gwen Tennyson, beyond Legerdemain's rulers, perhaps beyond the Celestial Sapiens themselves. Power that, if she could understand it, might finally provide what she'd sought for so long, the means to truly restore her father from the imprisonment that had claimed him. She glanced at Naruto's back as he walked ahead, discussing containment procedures with Kakashi. For now, alliance served her purposes. Knowledge exchange benefited them both. But eventually, choices would need to be made. The moon rose over Konoha as they approached its gates, illuminating a village unaware that its understanding of chakra, the energy that defined their entire civilization, might soon be fundamentally rewritten. And somewhere across dimensions, other entities with far less benevolent intentions had already noticed the cosmic disturbance. The awakening had begun. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, The Sorceress and the Sage. Dawn painted Konoha's eastern horizon in watercolor hues of amber and rose, casting long shadows across the village's iconic rooftops. Naruto stood atop the Hokage monument, overlooking the awakening community from his favorite vantage point upon the fourth Hokage's stone visage. His father's likeness beneath his feet felt particularly significant this morning, given yesterday's revelations about his possible heritage. The gentle breeze carried autumn's crisp scent, mingling with distant aromas of breakfast preparations and early market activity. Merchants unfolded their stalls, shinobi reported for assignments. Academy students hurried to classes, life continuing in its comfortable rhythm, unaware that the fundamental understanding of their world's power system might soon change forever. You always did enjoy watching them from high places, Kurama observed, his mental voice carrying unusual warmth. Even before you remembered. Naruto smiled faintly. The Nine Tails had been unusually talkative since yesterday's awakening, offering fragments of cosmic memory that felt simultaneously alien and intimately familiar. I still don't remember. Not really, Naruto replied internally. Just impressions. Feelings that make no sense. Quote, it will come. The mana reconnection has only begun. Naruto's contemplation shattered as an unmistakable energy signature approached from behind, magenta and sharp, like lightning captured in crystal. Your village is surprisingly quaint, Charmcaster remarked as she emerged from the stone stairway, her silver hair catching the sunrise. Shidix Che. Nged her ceremonial attire for clothing Kakashi had provided, standard Konoha civilian wear in subtle purples that complemented her natural coloring. The transformation made her look almost native to this world, save for her distinctive hair color and the grimoire still clutched possessively in one hand. Not impressed? Naruto asked, genuinely curious about her perspective. The sorceress shrugged one shoulder, joining him at the precipice. I've seen dimensions where cities float in permanent sunset, where buildings grow rather than being constructed, where reality restructures itself daily, according to inhabitants' collective desires. Her expression softened slightly. But there's something genuine about this place. Unfiltered. Naruto nodded, understanding the sentiment behind her clinical assessment. Konoha has been destroyed and rebuilt multiple times. What you see isn't original architecture, it's persistence. Determination. Your people are remarkably resilient for short-lived beings, Charmcaster observed. She caught Naruto's raised eyebrow and added, that wasn't condescension. Merely perspective. Anodites live for millennia in their natural state. And if I am what you think I am? The question hung between them, carried on the morning breeze. Charmcaster studied him with academic intensity. If you're truly a progenitor Anodite who chose human form so completely that you forgot your nature. She brushed silver strands from her face. Then you might be older than any civilization in any dimension I've encountered. The manifestation of mana itself, experi. Ensing reality from within rather than manipulating it from without. Naruto absorbed this possibility, testing it against his sense of self. The bizarre aspect wasn't the cosmic implication. After Fa. Shinkagaya and witnessing the creation of the moon, his conception of impossible had expanded considerably. The true difficulty lay in reconciling such an existence with his vivid human experiences, the loneliness of his childhood. The precious bonds forged through struggle, the very human pain and joy that defined his life. I remember being born, he said finally. I remember growing up, being hated, finding friends, learning jutsu, failing exams. Those memories are real. They would be, Charmcaster agreed. When a true Anodite adopts physical form, they don't merely wear it like a disguise. They become it completely. Biology, psychology, development from infancy. The perfect manifestation. Before Naruto could respond, a distinctive chakra signature approached, Shikamaru, moving W.I.T.H. uncharacteristic urgency up the monument steps. There you are, the shadow user called, his perpetually bored expression betrayed by alert eyes. Kakashi needs you both immediately. We've had reports of unusual energy disturbances from the land of water. Naruto straightened, instantly transitioning from philosophical contemplation to shinobi readiness. Similar to yesterday's. Unclear. But there Mizukage is personally investigating. Mei Terumi, Naruto murmured. The fifth Mizukage's reputation had only grown since the war, a leader who combined formidable combat prowess with sophisticated political acumen. Her efforts to reform Kurigakure's bloody reputation had yielded remarkable success in just a few years. Charmcaster noted the shift in Naruto's demeanor. Significant political figure, and one of the strongest kunoichi alive, Shikamaru confirmed. If she's involved personally, the situation's serious. Naruto nodded decisively. Tell Kakashi-sensei we'll meet him immediately. As Shikamaru departed, he turned to Charmcaster. How's your chakra control coming along? The sorceress smirked, violet eyes glinting with pride. I've been manipulating mana since childhood. Your chakra is simply a structured derivative, less versatile but more stable. After yesterday's observation session, I can maintain basic shinobi techniques. Good, because we're about to move fast. Without further preamble, Naruto leapt from the monument, chakra already channeling to his feet. Behind him, Charmcaster's startled exclamation dissolved into a hastily cast levitation arm that allowed her to follow his vertical descent down the cliff face. Their journey across rooftops to the Hokage Tower drew curious glances from villagers, the silver-haired stranger keeping pace with their beloved hero generated immediate gossip. Naruto noted with approval that Charmcaster mimicked shinobi movement patterns remarkably well for someone who'd spent less than a day observing them. Her adaptability suggested exceptional intelligence beyond her arcane knowledge. Kakashi awaited them in his office, standard Hokage attire replaced by battle-ready Jonin gear, a silent indication of the situation's gravity. Beside him stood Shizune, hands filled with intelligence reports from border outposts. May reports energy disturbances similar to what we experienced yesterday, Kakashi stated without preamble as they entered. Multiple locations along Water Country's eastern coastline, appearing simultaneously 12 hours ago. Rifts, Charmcaster concluded immediately. When dimensions begin bleeding into each other, the effect propagates exponentially. What began with my arrival has accelerated. Can you close them? Shizune asked. The sorceress frowned. Possibly, with proper preparation. But sealing rifts without addressing their cause is temporary at best. And the cause? Kakashi prompted. Charmcaster and Naruto exchanged significant glances. Me, Naruto said quietly. Or rather, what I'm becoming. The awakening of Anodite energy in this dimension is creating instability. Kakashi's visible eye revealed nothing of his thoughts as he processed this information. Then our immediate priority is containment while we determine longer-term solutions. The Mizukage has requested assistance, specifically mentioning unusual energy signatures unlike standard chakra. She wants Naruto, Shizune clarified, and our dimensional expert, Kakashi added, nodding toward Charmcaster. I've authorized a joint response team. You'll rendezvous with Kiri forces at the primary disturbance site. Naruto nodded, understanding the diplomatic complexities beneath the straightforward mission parameters. Inter-village cooperation remained delicate despite post-war alliances. The Hokage sending his most trusted Jonin, who happened to be the village's greatest hero, demonstrated appropriate respect while maintaining Konoha's interests in the situation. When do we leave? He asked. Immediately. A small team, just you two, plus Sai for transportation. The fewer people exposed to potential interdimensional threats, the better. As if summoned by his name, the foe. RMER route operative appeared at the window, his ink bird transport hovering outside. Sai's placid smile revealed nothing of his thoughts about the unusual mission parameters. I've briefed Sai on the basic situation, Kakashi continued. Though certain details remain classified, the implications were clear. Sai knew they were investigating dimensional anomalies but not Naruto's connection to them. Understood, Naruto confirmed. He turned to Charmcaster. Pack whatever magical supplies you need. We leave in 20 minutes. The sorceress raised an eyebrow at his authoritative tone but nodded, recognizing the shift from philosophical discussion to mission protocol. As she departed to gather her materials, Naruto remained behind, sensing Kakashi had more to say. When the door closed, the Hokage's posture relaxed fractionally. How are you handling this, Naruto? Truly, the question carried layers of concern. Not just as Hokage to subordinate, but as former teacher to student, as friend to friend. Naruto appreciated Kakashi's ability to balance multiple contexts without losing sight of the human element. Honestly, I'm still processing, he admitted. But focusing on immediate problems helps. And Kurama, Naruto smiled faintly, more talkative than usual, almost reverent. Tell him I said hello, asterisk, the Nine-Tails rumbled sarcastically, though without real malice. Kakashi nodded thoughtfully. Be careful in Water Country. Mei Terumi is an ally, but her primary loyalty remains to Kurigakure. If these dimensional disturbances connect to your changing nature, he'll evaluate potential advantages for her village. She's not Danzo, Naruto countered, remembering the War Hawk's manipulative tactics. No, Kakashi agreed. She's something potentially more Nurse, a principled leader with genuine vision who's also politically brilliant. Don't underestimate her because of her friendly demeanor. The warning surprised Naruto slightly. Kakashi rarely read such specific cautions about allied leaders. You sound like you know her well. A hint of amusement flickered in the Hokage's visible eye. We've crossed paths over the years. Let's just say I respect her capabilities on multiple fronts. Before Naruto could decipher this cryptic response, Sai rapped on the window, signaling readiness. With a final nod to his former sensei, Naruto departed to prepare for the mission. 20 minutes later, Sai's massive ink bird soared eastward, carrying 3 passengers above forests gradually giving way to coastal plains. The creature's chakra-infused construction allowed for speeds impossible for conventional transportation, reducing what would normally be a 2-day journey to mere hours. Naruto used the travel time to brief Sai more thoroughly on interdimensional threats while Charmcaster examined her grimoire, occasionally murmuring incantations that caused complex symbols to materialize briefly before dissolving into the air. "You're preparing protection spells," Naruto guessed, recognizing patterns similar to those she'd used against the Aetherus Hound. The sorceress nodded without looking up. "Defensive wards, detection charms, and a few offensive preparations. Your shinobi techniques are impressive but potentially useless against certain extradimensional entities." Like the Hound, Sai noted, having been briefed on yesterday's encounter. Precisely. Creatures from mana-rich dimensions may be partially or completely incorporeal by this world's standards. They exist simultaneously in physical space and the energy dimension. Naruto considered this, connecting it to his experience with the Six Paths Sage mode. Similar to how limbo clones exist in parallel dimensions but can affect our world. Charmcaster glanced up with genuine interest. "You have experience with parallel dimensional physics. That wasn't in your explanation yesterday. The Rinnegan, an advanced dojutsu, can create and perceive entities in adjacent dimensional planes." Naruto explained. "I've fought against them." "Fascinating adaptation," the sorceress murmured. "Your world has developed specialized biological mechanisms to interact with multidimensional space. That suggests long-term exposure to dimensional boundaries." "The Otsutsuki clan," Sai suggested. "They've traveled between dimensions for millennia." Charmcaster's expression sharpened with intellectual hunger. "You must tell me more about these Otsutsuki. Their methods could provide crucial insights into stabilizing the current rifts." Their discussion continued as coastline appeared on the horizon, the mainland giving way to scattered islands that comprised water countries' territory. Mist shrouded the archipelago, thickening as they approached, not natural fog but protective barriers maintained by Kurigakure's sensory division. Naruto detected the subtle chakra patterns woven through the mist, identification triggers that would alert border patrols to their presence. Right on cue, 3 shinobi materialized on adjacent water spouts, rising to intercept their approach. "Konoha delegation," the lead Kiri Nin called, voice amplified by water nature chakra. "State your purpose." Uzumaki Naruto. Responding to Mizukage-sama's request regarding unusual energy phenomena, Naruto replied formally. The verification process completed swiftly, the Kiri shinobi courting them through increasingly dense mist until a small island emerged below, not Kurigakure proper but a forward operating base established specifically for the current situation. As they descended, Naruto observed the sophisticated security measures surrounding a central pavilion, concentric rings of sensory barriers, elite jonin positioned at strategic intervals, medical units prepared for unknown threats. Mei Terumi ran a tight operation. The Mizukage herself awaited them at the pavilion's entrance, her auburn hair cascading over the blue battle dress she favored for field operations. Despite the serious circumstances, she maintained her characteristic poise, lips curved in a smile that managed to be simultaneously diplomatic and subtly dangerous. "Naruto-kun," she greeted, honorific deliberately casual. "Thank you for responding so promptly. Kakashi-san continues to demonstrate Konoha's commitment to our alliance." Naruto bowed respectfully. "Mizukage-sama, we came as soon as we received your request." Mei's jade eyes shifted to Charmcaster, assessing the silver-haired stranger with keen interest. "And this must be the specialist Kakashi mentioned. I don't believe we've been introduced." "You may call me Charmcaster," the sorceress replied, matching Mei's formal yet personal tone. "I specialize in interdimensional energy manipulation. A rare expertise," Mei noted, giving no indication whether she found the explanation satisfactory. "One that may prove essential, given what we've encountered." She gestured toward the pavilion's interior. "Please, join me for briefing before we proceed to the primary anomaly site." Inside, tactical displays covered the walls, maps marking disturbance locations, sensor readings graphed over time, incident reports from affected areas. In the center, a three-dimensional projection showed swirling energy patterns unlike standard chakra formations. 11 distinct anomalies appeared simultaneously, May began, indicating points along the eastern archipelago. Unlike chakra signatures, they don't dissipate or move. They simply exist, growing steadily stronger. Stable rifts, Charmcaster concluded, examining the energy patterns. Tears in dimensional fabric that have achieved equilibrium rather than collapsing or expanding catastrophically. Can you close them? May asked directly. Possibly. But I need to understand what's maintaining their stability first. Charmcaster approached the projection, fingers tracing energy flows with practiced analysis. Most dimensional breaches either collapse immediately or expand destructively. These are doing neither. They're being maintained. Naruto realized, golden pink energy briefly flickering across his irises as he studied the patterns. Deliberately, both women turned toward him, noting the momentary manifestation of his anodite energy. May's expression revealed nothing, but her posture shifted subtly, the instinctive recalibration of a master combatant recognizing unfamiliar power. Maintained by what? She asked. Naruto exchanged glances with Charmcaster, silently debating how much to reveal. The sorceress gave an almost imperceptible nod. Mizukage needed sufficient information to cooperate effectively. The anomalies relate to interdimensional energy we've been investigating, Naruto explained. Yesterday, Konoha experienced a seminal AR incident that brought Charmcaster to our world. These new rifts appear more controlled, possibly created with purpose rather than accidentally. May processed this with impressive composure, her analytical mind clearly mapping political and tactical implications. You believe someone is deliberately creating passages between dimensions. Or something, Charmcaster amended. Not all dimension. All travelers possess humanoid consciousness as you understand it. The Mizukage's eyes narrowed fractionally. Have creatures crossed through these rifts into our world? Not yet, according to your sensor data, Naruto answered. But the primary anomaly site would provide more definitive information. May nodded decisively. Then we proceed there immediately. She activated a communication seal on her wrist. Prepare transport to Site Alpha. Full containment protocols. Within minutes, they departed the command pavilion for a smaller island several kilometers eastward. May personally led their 4-person team, accompanied by Ao, her veteran sensor specialist whose Byakugan, hidden beneath an eye patch, provided unique perceptual advantages. As their water transport jutsu skimmed across the ocean surface, May positioned herself beside Naruto, voice pitched for private conversation beneath the spray and wind. Kakashi's message mentioned you've developed new abilities related to these phenomena, she noted casually. As though discussing weather rather than potentially world-changing powers. Naruto measured his response carefully, recognizing the diplomatic probe disguised as casual interest. I've discovered connections between my unique chakra and the interdimensional energy at work here. The 9 tails. Related, but distinct. May accepted this limited answer with grace. The 5-cage alliance depends on trust, Naruto-kun. I respect operational security, but hope you'll share relevant capabilities when circumstances require. Her statement balanced perfectly, between gentle reminder and subtle warning, diplomatic finesse that had helped Kurigake rebuild its international reputation after decades of isolation and brutality. Of course, Naruto agreed easily. Though some aspects remain unclear even to me. This earned a genuine smile from the Mizukage. Discovering one's true nature is rarely straightforward. I spent years reconciling my dual Kekkei Genkei with traditional Kiri power structures that once hunted those with bloodline abilities. She glanced sideways at him. Sometimes personal evolution and political reality exist in uncomfortable tension. The insight surprised Naruto. Behind her carefully maintained public persona, Mai Terumi clearly possessed philosophical depth forged through personal struggle. It reminded him that most age-level shinobi had navigated complex identity journeys beyond their combat capabilities. Their conversation paused as Site Alpha came into view, a jagged rock formation rising from the sea, Sarone. Dead by unnaturally calm waters despite the ocean's normal turbulence. The stillness extended upward, where mist hung motionless in defiance of coastal winds. Localized temporal distortion, Charmcaster observed, Scientific interest overcoming caution. Time flows differently within the rift's influence. Ao's visible eye narrowed. My Byakugan confirms abnormal chakra stagnation. The entire area exists in a partial stasis field. They approached cautiously, creating a solid water pathway to the formation's base. Up close, the anomaly became visible even to normal perception, a vertical tear in reality that resembled heat distortion, through which occasional flashes of alien landscape appeared. Charmcaster immediately began tracing arcane symbols in the air, her grimoire hovering open beside her through some unseen force. Tempus Revelio. Dementia Analytica. Magenta energy flowed from her fingertips, interacting with the rift in complex patterns that shifted and reconfigured as they made contact. Fascinating, she murmured. This isn't a natural breach. It's been purposefully stabilized using techniques that combine principles from multiple dimensional systems, including this world's chakra. Someone who understands both, Naruto asked, concerned. Or multiple individuals collaborating, she confirmed grimly. Dimensional manipulation requires specialized knowledge, normally isolated within specific realities. This suggests coordination. May processed this with remarkable calm. Coordinated by whom, and to what purpose? Unknown, Charmcaster admitted. But the stabilization method is sophisticated. These aren't random incursions, they're established transit points. Naruto stepped closer to the rift, instinctively reaching toward it with his senses rather than physical touch. The golden-pink energy responded immediately, flowing just beneath his skin as his consciousness expanded to perceive dimensional frequencies beyond normal awareness. There's something, he began, then froze as recognition flooded through him. Something familiar. Be careful, Naruto, Kurama warned within him. What feels familiar may not be friendly. Before anyone could react, the rift's placid surface rippled violently. The distortion widened, edges crystallizing into defined boundaries as something massive began emerging from within, a creature unlike anything native to the shinobi world. It resembled a manta ray in basic structure, but with proportions twisted through impossible geometries. Its wingspan stretched nearly 30 feet, translucent membrane revealing internal organs that pulsed with liquid light. Multiple eyes lined its forward edge, each rotating independently to scan different dimensional planes simultaneously. Where a mouth should be, a spiraling vortex of energy continuously formed and collapsed upon itself. Chronivore, Charmcaster identified immediately, already backing away while tracing defensive symbols. They feed on time differentials between dimensions. Extremely dangerous, they can age you to dust with a touch. May reacted with veteran composure, hands flowing through signs. Yoden. Yokai no Jutsu. Lava Aru. PTED from her mouth in a massive stream directed at the emerging threat. The molten attack passed harmlessly through the creature, solidifying on the other side as though centuries had instantly passed. The Chronovore's dimensional membrane rippled with what might have been pleasure, temporal energy absorbed from the jutsu feeding its otherworldly metabolism. Physical attacks accelerate its feeding cycle, Charmcaster warned. It processes matter through localized time acceleration. Ao attempted sensory jutsu to identify weaknesses, only to stagger backward, blood trickling from beneath his eye patch. Its chakra network, if it even has one, exists across multiple temporal states simultaneously. The Byakugan can't track it. The creature completed its emergence, hovering above the weight. R's surface is reality distorted around it. Smaller rifts began opening in its wake, time-space fracturing under its influence. We need to force it back through the original rift and seal the breach, Charmcaster called. Frantically searching her grimoire, but conventional containment won't work against a fifth-dimensional entity. Naruto stepped forward, golden-pink energy now flowing freely around his form. Then we need unconventional methods. Without conscious thought, his hands formed a previously unknown configuration, not standard shinobi signs but elegant geometric patterns that handled anodite energy rather than chakra. The response was immediate. Golden pink light erupted from his palms, forming crystalline structures in the air that began rotating around the chronivore, reading a containment matrix of pure mana. Tempus Stabilium, Chronos Incarcerus. The incantation emerged from Naruto's lips without deliberate thought, words in a language he'd never studied yet somehow understood perfectly. Charmcaster's eyes widened in astonishment. That's high anodite thaumaturgy. spell forms that take decades to master. The crystalline matrix tightened around the chronivore, forcing its dimensional aspects into temporal alignment. The creature thrashed against the containment, its multiple eyes rotating frantically as it sought escape vectors through time-space. It's working, Ao confirmed. Byakugan active despite the pain. Its temporal signatures are synchronizing. Mei immediately recognized the tactical opportunity. Now we can target it conventionally. Ao. Coordinate. The Mizukage launched into her most devastating combination. Boil release creating superheated vapor that corroded the creature's now vulnerable membrane while her sensor specialist directed the attack to the temporal weak points Naruto's containment had exposed. Simultaneously, Charmcaster completed her own spell, magenta energy forming a repulsion field that began forcing the chronivore back toward the original rift. Abeo Exorior, Redditus Dementia. The creature resisted with surprising intelligence, one eye fixing directly on Naruto with unmistakable recognition. APS. Y-Chic pulse emanated from it, not communication in any human sense, but conceptual transmission that bypassed linguistic centers entirely. Progenitor. Awakened. Danger. Asterisk. The message burned into Naruto's consciousness with such intensity that he nearly lost concentration on the containment field. Only Kurama's stabilizing presence prevented complete disruption. Maintain focus, Kit, asterisk, the Nine Tails urged. It recognizes what you are, but that doesn't make it an ally. Naruto redoubled his efforts, pushing the creature inexorably backward despite its psychic attempts to communicate further. As it approached the rift, Charmcaster began the complex sealing procedure, magenta symbols interlocking around the dimensional tier. I need more power to close it completely, she called, strain evident in her voice. Without hesitation, Mei directed a continuous stream of precise chakra toward the sorceress. Convert it as needed. Charmcaster's eyes widened momentarily at the Mizukage's trust, then accepted the offering. Her spell matrix expanding dramatically as she channeled Kiri chakra through her magical framework. Asterisk Forca's nebulae, Integrata Dementia. The combination proved devastatingly effective. As the chronivore disappeared back through the rift, the dimensional tear began collapsing upon itself, reality knitting together with almost audible force. Within moments, a faint shimmer remained where the breach had existed. Silence fell over the site, broken only by the natural sounds of waves against rock, the temporal stasis field having dissipated with the creature's departure. The four combatants remained alert, scanning for residual threats or secondary rifts. Is it truly contained? Mei asked finally, her battle stance relaxing incrementally. Charmcaster nodded, though her expression remained troubled. This breach is sealed, but the others will require similar treatment. And more concerning, the creature recognized me, Naruto finished quietly. It called me Progenitor, and warned of danger. Mei's analytical gaze shifted between them. Explanation. Naruto exchanged glances with Charmcaster, knowing they'd reached the point where partial disclosure wouldn't suffice. The Mizukage had just witnessed abilities beyond standard shinobi capabilities and coordinated seamlessly despite the unprecedented threat. She'd earned more complete information. The interdimensional disturbances connect to energy I've recently discovered within myself, he explained carefully. Energy that appears to be the original source of what our world developed as chakra. The golden power you manifested, Mei observed neutrally. Not the Nine Tails chakra. No, according to what we've learned, it may predate the tailed beasts entirely. Charmcaster added her perspective. In my dimension, that energy signature belongs exclusively to Anodites, beings of pure mana who can manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. Naruto appears to be manifesting Anodite abilities despite his human form. Mei processed this with impressive composure. And these rifts, they're appearing because of this awakening. We believe so, Naruto confirmed. Though, the controlled nature of these particular breaches suggests deliberate exploitation rather than natural consequence. The Mizukage considered this information, her political mind clearly calculating implications alongside tactical concerns. After a moment, she reached a decision. This situation clearly transcends standard village jurisdictions, she stated. I propose extending our field alliance to address all identified rifts. With knowledge exchange as necessary for operational success. The offer represented significant trust, Kurigaku's traditional secrecy giving way to pragmatic cooperation. Naruto recognized the gesture's value, especially from a leader as politically astute as Mei Terumi. Agreed, he responded, though some details remain classified by Konoha, we'll share all information relevant to containing the dimensional threats. Mei smiled, the expression warming her formal demeanor. Excellent. We should return to the command center to coordinate response to the remaining anomalies. She turned to Charmcaster. Your expertise proved invaluable. I hope you'll continue assisting our joint operation. The sorceress inclined her head, academic curiosity clearly overcoming any lingering reservations. The opportunity to study stable dimensional interfaces is rare. I'll help seal the remaining rifts while gathering data on their formation. As they prepared to depart, Mei moved beside Naruto. Voice pitched for private conversation. That creature's warning troubles me, she admitted, momentarily setting aside diplomatic reserve. If interdimensional entities recognize you specifically, this situation may have deeper implications than we initially assumed. I'm still piecing together what it means myself, Naruto acknowledged honestly. Then perhaps we should discuss it further this evening, Mei suggested, her tone shifting subtly. After formal debriefing, my private quarters include protective seals against surveillance, a necessary precaution for any cage. The invitation carried multiple potential interpretations: strategic confidence building, genuine concern, or something more personal. Naruto recognized the diplomatic ambiguity as intentional, allowing him to choose how to receive it. I'd appreciate the opportunity to speak frankly, he replied, maintaining similar ambiguity while accepting the core invitation. Satisfaction flickered briefly across Mei's features before her formal demeanor returned. With practiced efficiency, she organized their departure, water transport jutsu carrying them swiftly back toward the command island. Throughout the journey, Naruto contemplated the chronovore's warning. Danger, but from what? Other dimensional entities drawn to his awakening energy, or something more fundamental about the nature of what he was becoming. The creature feared you, Kurama noted internally. Despite its power across dimensional planes, it recognized something superior in your essence. That's not reassuring, Naruto replied mentally. If these beings can sense what I am across dimensions, we may face more incursions as my abilities develop. Perhaps they will learn to avoid this world entirely, once they realize the progenitor has awakened here. The Nine Tails perspective provided cold comfort as they returned to the command pavilion. While Kiri personnel established a tactical perimeter around the remaining anomaly sites, Naruto, Charmcaster, Mei, and Ao gathered to analyze data from their encounter. The creature's temporal manipulation resembled space-time ninjutsu but functioned on principles of never encountered, Ao reported, his decades of experience evident in his precise assessment. Our standard containment protocols would have failed completely without the specialized techniques employed by Uzumaki-san and the specialist. Mei nodded thoughtfully, which necessitates adaptation of our response strategies. Ao, coordinate with sensory divisio. N to establish early warning parameters based on temporal distortion rather than chakra signatures. As the veteran departed to implement her orders, Mei turned to Charmcaster. I'd like your assessment of the remaining rifts. Can they be sealed using the same method? The sorceress consulted the spatial diagram displaying all anomaly locations. The underlying principle should work, though each rift may require adjustments based on its specific dimensional frequency. She glanced toward Naruto. The process would be more efficient with your assistance, given the nature of your energy. Agreed, Naruto confirmed. We should prioritize the rifts showing highest activity levels. Mei studied the tactical display. 3 sites demonstrate energy signatures comparable to the chronovore incursion point. The others appear dormant but stable. Her jade eyes shifted to Naruto. Your recommendation? The question carried subtle significance, the Mizukage deferring to his assessment despite this being Kurigaku territory. Whether testing his tactical judgment or genuinely recognizing his specialized knowledge, the gesture demonstrated political flexibility uncommon among cage-level leaders. Split into teams, Naruto decided after brief consideration. Charmcaster and I can address the highest priority rift while Kiri forces establish containment perimeters around the others. Once we've confirmed the sealing method works consistently, we can train your specialists in modified techniques. A joint approach that maximizes our respective strengths. May approved. I'll accompany your team personally. Ao can coordinate secondary containment teams. The strategy session continued into late afternoon, shinobi teams deploying to designated positions while Charmcaster prepared specialized sealing materials. As twilight approached, Naruto found a moment of solitude on the command pavilion's outer deck, overlooking the mist-shrouded sea. The Mizukage watches you with more than political interest, Kurama observed with uncharacteristic amusement. Her chakra fluctuation patterns shift whenever you demonstrate the golden energy. She's analytically minded, Naruto replied dismissively. Any new power system would interest her. Naive as ever, the Nine-Tails snorted. Powerful females often recognize worthy mates through strength demonstration. It's evolutionary. Since when are you an expert on human attraction? Naruto countered, though the observation had planted a seed of awareness he couldn't entirely dismiss. I've lived inside humans for centuries, Kurama reminded him. Your mating rituals are hardly subtle from internal perspective. This uncomfortable conversation ended as Charmcaster joined him on the deck, her silver hair capturing the sunset's amber glow. She'd spent hours consulting with Kiri's seal masters, adapting their techniques to complement her dimensional magic. Their fuinjutsu principles are remarkably sophisticated, she noted. Genuine respect coloring her assessment. Particularly their understanding of multidimensional anchor points. With minor adaptation, we can create hybrid seals that should contain even fifth-dimensional entities. You've been working well with them, Naruto observed. I was concerned there might be resistance to outside methods. Charmcaster smiled thinly. Knowledge is currency in any dimension. I'm trading rather than imposing. She leaned against the railing, violet eyes studying him with clinical intensity. You controlled Anodite energy with remarkable precision today. The containment matrix you created should have been beyond your capabilities at this developmental stage. It felt instinctive, Naruto admitted. Like remembering rather than learning. Further, evidence supporting my progenitor theory, she mused. True Anodites don't learn techniques, they remember how reality responds to their will. Her expression turned thoughtful. The chronivore recognized you. That's significant. Fifth-dimensional entities perceive time non-linearly. It may have encountered you before, from its perspective, even if that meeting lies in your future. The implicatio. Sent an uncomfortable chill through Naruto. Time-distorted encounters, beings that recognized him across dimensions, warnings of danger from entities that themselves represented threats, the cosmic eye. Implications were expanding beyond comfortable comprehension. One problem at a time, he said firmly, centering himself in present concerns. Tomorrow we seal the remaining rifts. Everything else can wait. Practical approach, Charmcaster acknowledged, though her scholarly expression suggested continued fascination with the theoretical implications. She hesitated, then added with uncharacteristic uncertainty. The Mizukage has requested my presence this evening to discuss magical theory. I believe she's evaluating potential applications for her village's security systems. The statement read an implicit question about Mei's trustworthiness. Naruto considered carefully before responding. Mei Terumi is politically motivated but fundamentally honorable, he said finally. She'll seek advantage for Kurigakure, certainly. But not through betrayal or exploitation. Share what you're comfortable with. She'll respect boundaries clearly established. Charmcaster nodded, apparently satisfied with this assessment. Knowledge exchange benefits both parties when properly structured. I'll maintain appropriate limits. With a final analytical glance, she departed, leaving Naruto alone with the sunset and his thoughts. Nearly alone. She's quite remarkable, your interdimensional expert, Mei observed, emerging silently from the pavilion's shadows. The Mizukage had exchanged her Adel attire for a more formal kimono in shades of blue that complemented her auburn hair. Despite the outfit's traditional appearance, Naruto had no doubt she remained combat-ready beneath the elegant exterior. Charmcaster has been invaluable, he agreed neutrally. Her understanding of dimensional mechanics transcends anything in our shinobi archives. And yet, Mei noted, moving to stand beside him at the railing. She defers to you in matters of energy manipulation, despite your recent acquisition of these abilities. Her jade eyes studied his profile. Curious, wouldn't you say? The observation carried gentle prodding rather than accusation, the Mizukage's diplomatic approach to information gathering. Naruto recognized the technique from countless political negotiations following the war. We have complementary knowledge bases, he replied carefully. Her theoretical understanding balanced against my practical experience with chakra control. May's lips curved in a smile. Had managed to be simultaneously diplomatic and gently mocking. A reasonable explanation, though perhaps not the complete one. Before Naruto could formulate a response, she continued smoothly. My invitation to discuss matters privately still stands. After you've had time to rest and refresh. She gestured toward a smaller structure adjacent to the command pavilion. Guest quarters have been prepared. We reconvene at 2200 hours to finalize tomorrow's operation. With that, she departed, leaving a subtle trace of jasmine perfume in her wake. Naruto found himself simultaneously impressed by her tactical approach to information gathering and wary of underestimating her perceptiveness. She suspects more than you've revealed, Kurama noted unnecessarily. The containment technique you used against the chronivore demonstrated abilities beyond standard explanation. I know, Naruto acknowledged. But how much should we tell her? The potential political implications of this energy source could destabilize the fragile peace we've built. Perhaps that decision needn't be made immediately, the Nine Tails suggested. Gather more information about her intentions first. Sound advice. Naruto reflected as he made his way toward the guest quarters. The post-war political landscape remained delicate despite strengthened alliances. If his awakening Anodite abilities truly connected to the source of all chakra, the implications extended far beyond personal transformation, potentially shifting the entire power balance among hidden villages. The guest quarters proved comfort. Ably appointed despite their utilitarian exterior, Kurigaku's notorious pragmatism balanced with diplomatic courtesy. Naruto used the opportunity to shower and change into fresh clothing Sai had brought from Konoha. Then meditated briefly to center himself before the evening's tactical meeting. As he sat cross-legged on the tatami floor, golden pink energy manifested without conscious effort, owing around him in elegant patterns that responded to his emotions rather than deliberate control. The phenomenon had increased throughout the day, Anodite power emerging more readily with each activation. The seal continues to adapt, Kurama observed, his consciousness brushing against Naruto's with unusual gentleness. The barrier between my chakra and your mana grows increasingly permeable. Is that dangerous? Naruto asked mentally. Not dangerous, the Nine Tails clarified. But potentially transformative, for both of us. Before Naruto could explore this cryptic statement further, a discreet knock announced the scheduled meeting. Willing the golden energy to recede, he composed himself and departed for the command pavilion. The tactical session proceeded efficiently, May directing her forces with the practiced confidence of a veteran commander. Tomorrow's operation would target the three active rifts simultaneously, with Naruto and Charmcaster providing speciale Z sealing techniques while Kurigaku's forces maintained perimeter security. Questions. May concluded, addressing the assembled team leaders. When none were forthcoming, she dismissed the ring with final instructions for early deployment. As personnel dispersed to their assignments, she turned to Naruto with professional courtesy that nevertheless carried subtle personal undertones. If you're not too fatigued, perhaps we could continue our earlier discussion. Naruto nodded, recognizing both the opportunity and the potential complications it presented. Of course, Mizukage-sama. May, please, she corrected smoothly. When not in formal settings, she led him not toward the official cage quarters as expected, but along a narrow path that wound through volcanic rock format. Ions to a natural hot spring overlooking the sea. A small traditional structure had been built around the spring, offering privacy while maintaining the spectacular ocean vista. My personal retreat, May explained as they entered. More secure than official quarters, which are routinely swept for surveillance despite our best countermeasures. She activated a complex series of hand signs, Kazan, G ceiling arrays to illuminate briefly along the structure's perimeter. Complete privacy protection. Even Ao's Byakugan cannot penetrate these barriers. The interior featured minimalist elegance, tatami floors, shoji screens, and a small sitting area arranged beside windows facing the moonlit ocean. A tea service waited on a low table, steam rising gently from an iron pot. Please, sit, May invited. gracefully arranging her kimono as she knelt beside the table. Few outside my closest advisors know of this place. I find it conducive to conversations requiring absolute discretion. Naruto settled opposite her, maintaining respectful formality while assessing the situation. The private setting could indicate multiple intentions: diplomatic confidence building, information extraction, or personal interest. Perhaps all three simultaneously. May poured tea with practiced movements that transformed the simple act into artistic performance. Volcanic spring water filtered through mineral beds unique to this island. She explained, offering a cup. Said to promote clarity of thought. Naruto accepted with appropriate appreciation, using the ritualized exchange to gather his thoughts. May had created a setting that deliberately blurred lines between official and personal interaction, a sophisticated approach to sensitive conversation. After they had observed proper tea ceremony protocols, the Mizukage directed the conversation with characteristic precision. "The energy you manifested today," she began, jade eyes studying him over her cup's rim. "Golden pink, responsive to intention rather than hand signs, capable of affecting interdimensional entities. Nothing in our shinobi archives describes such power." Statement rather than question, allowing him to determine how much to reveal. Naruto appreciated the diplomatic approach while recognizing its effectiveness. "It's recently awakened," he confirmed, deciding honesty within careful limits served best. "Connected to, but distinct from, Kurama's chakra. We're still understanding its full nature and implications. Connected to the origin of chakra itself, if I understood correctly," May noted. "Potentially predating the Sage of Six Paths." "Potentially," Naruto acknowledged, impressed by her recall of details mentioned during combat conditions. May sipped her tea thoughtfully. Such discoveries inevitably affect more than the individual experiencing them, particularly when that individual holds significant position within the shinobi world. The observation cut directly to political implications without explicitly demanding information. Masterful indirect approach. Naruto recognized the need to address the underlying concern while maintaining operational security. "I understand your perspective," he replied carefully. "Power shifts create instability unless properly managed. That's precisely why we're proceeding cautiously, gathering information before wider disclosure." "Wise approach," May agreed, setting down her cup with deliberate precision. "Though I wonder if you've considered all potential dimensions of impact." Meaning, beyond political and military implications, she elaborated. "Profound personal transformation often carries psychological and social consequences, even for someone with your remarkable adaptability." The statement surprised Naruto, not the observation itself, but the direction of concern. He'd expected purely strategic discussion, not consideration of personal impact. May continued before he could respond. "I experienced similar challenges when my dual Kekkei Genkei manifested fully. Abilities that set one apart can create isolation, even when surrounded by allies. Particularly for those in leadership positions." The personal disclosure shifted he conversation's tone, from diplomatic exchange to something approaching genuine connection. Naruto reassessed the Mizukage's intentions, recognizing complexity beyond strategic information gathering. "You speak from experience," he observed quietly. Something flickered briefly in May's jade eyes, vulnerability quickly masked by diplomatic poise. "Kurigakure's history with bloodline abilities is complicated. Even as Mizukage, I occasionally encounter whispers of the old superstitions. Power that others don't understand often generates fear alongside respect." Naruto nodded, understanding completely. Despite his current heroic status, he remembered decades of isolation due to Kurama's presence, villagers' fear manifesting as rejection and suspicion. "The parallels aren't lost on me," he acknowledged. "Though I've had practice navigating unusual power dynamics." "Indeed." May's smile held genuine warmth beneath its diplomatic surface. "Which is partly why I wanted this private conversation. Beyond tactical considerations, I believe we share uncommon perspective on the burden of exceptional abilities." She refilled their teacups with graceful precision. "Tell me, Naruto, how does it feel? This awakening energy?" The question carried sincere interest rather than strategic probing. After moments' consideration, Naruto decided authentic exchange might build trust more effectively than careful evasion. "Like remembering something essential I'd forgotten," he admitted. "Familiar yet completely new." The golden energy responds differently than chakra, less like a tool I'm using, more like. He searched for appropriate comparison, more like remembering my own name after temporary amnesia. May nodded thoughtfully. When my boil release first manifested completely, I experienced something similar. Not learning a technique but recognizing an intrinsic aspect of myself. Her expression turned reflective. Power that emerges from within rather than being acquired externally changes one's fundamental self-conception. Exactly, Naruto agreed, surprised and appreciative of her insightful understanding. Conversation flowed more naturally after this exchange, hing on philosophical questions of identity, power, and responsibility. May revealed unexpected depth beyond her political acumen, a thoughtful leader who had clearly reflected deeply on the nature of ability and obligation. As discussion progressed, Naruto found himself genuinely enjoying her perspective. The Mizukage balanced intellectual precision with practical wisdom, her observations shaped by experiences both as combatant and diplomat. Her renowned beauty, while undeniable, seemed secondary to the sharpness of her mind and the complexity of her character. "Your Anodite specialist," May remarked as their conversation eventually returned to current circumstances. "She watches you with fascinating ambivalence, academic interest warring with something more personal." Naruto raised an eyebrow. "You've been observing carefully." "Professional habit," May acknowledged with slight smile. Reading interpersonal dynamics often reveals more than official statements. Charmcaster clearly possesses extraordinary knowledge. But her agenda remains opaque. She's stranded in an unfamiliar dimension, Naruto pointed out. Some reservation seems natural, perhaps. May's expression turned thoughtful, though I wonder if her arrival truly was accidental, given its perfect timing with your awakening. The observation struck Naruto forcefully, a possibility he hadn't fully considered. Could Charmcaster's dimensional transit have been deliberately targeted toward his emerging energy signature? The coincidental timing suddenly seemed suspicious when framed from that perspective. Quote, "You suspect deliberate intervention rather than coincidence," he stated rather than asked. May shrugged elegantly. "I merely note the improbability. Interdimensional travel occurring precisely as you begin manifesting energy that facilitates such travel. Statistical unlikelihood suggests potential causation." The analytical observation demonstrated why May had risen to cage position despite Kiri Gawker's traditionally male-dominated power structure. Her mind constantly evaluated multiple dimensions of any situation, identifying patterns others might miss. A perspective worth considering, Naruto acknowledged, mentally filing the insight for further evaluation. Though her assistance has proven genuine regardless of initial circumstances. Indeed, May agreed, one can have private motivations while still providing valuable contribution. I simply suggest awareness rather than suspicion. Their conversation continued past midnight, ranging from immediate tactical concerns to broader philosophical questions about dimensional boundaries and the nature of chakra itself. Throughout, Naruto found himself increasingly impressed by May's intellectual depth and genuine curiosity, qualities often overshadowed by her diplomatic persona in formal settings. As their discussion finally concluded, May walked him to the retreat's entrance, pausing before deactivating the privacy seals. "I've enjoyed our conversation, Naruto," she said, formal title deliberately omitted. "Beyond its strategic value, I appreciate the opportunity for genuine exchange. Such moments are rare in cage position." "Likewise," Naruto replied sincerely. "Your insights have given me new perspectives to consider." May studied him thoughtfully, jade eyes reflecting moonlight. "Perhaps when tomorrow's operation concludes successfully, we might continue our discussion. There are hot springs on the western island with healing properties particularly effective for chakra regeneration. They might prove beneficial after extensive energy manipulation." Quote, "The invitation carried multiple potential interpretations, practical consideration for operational effectiveness, continued strategic dialogue, or personal interest." The deliberate ambiguity allowed him to respond according to his own inclination. "I'd welcome the opportunity," Naruto replied, maintaining similar productive ambiguity while accepting the core invitation. Satisfaction flickered briefly in May's expression before she activated the release sequence for the privacy seals. "Until tomorrow, then, I suggest rest. Dimensional sealing requires precise energy control." With that practical recommendation, they parted, the Mizukage returning to her official quarters while Naruto made his way back to the guest accommodation. The cool night air carried salt and mist. The ocean's rhythmic presence a constant backdrop to the temporary settlement. Interesting diplomatic approach, asterisk, Kurama commented as Naruto reached his quarters. The Mizuki age balances strategic information gathering with personal connection quite effectively. She's more complex than her public persona suggests, Naruto agreed, settling onto the sleeping mat. Intellectually formidable beyond her combat abilities. And clearly interested in more than political alliance, asterisk, the Nine Tails added with characteristic bluntness. Her chakra fluctuations indicated genuine personal interest beneath strategic consideration. Naruto chose not to engage with this observation directly, though he couldn't entirely dismiss it. Throughout their conversation, Mei had demonstrated authentic interest in his perspective alongside professional concerns, the boundary between diplomatic courtesy and personal connection deliberately ambiguous. As sleep approached, his thoughts drifted between immediate mission parameters and longer-term implications of his awakening abilities. If the Anodite energy truly represented the source of all chakra, its emergence carried sequences beyond personal transformation, potentially reshaping fundamental understanding of their world's power systems. Tomorrow would bring practical challenges requiring immediate focus. The philosophical questions could wait, though not indefinitely, as interdimensional entities clearly recognized something in him that transcended his human identity. Somewhere between consciousness and dreams, golden pink energy flowed through his awareness, carrying impressions of ancient memory, fragments of existence before human form, before the tailed beasts, before the concept of chakra itself. Not coherent recollection but emotional resonance, like remembering a home visited only in earliest childhood. When morning arrived, Naruto awoke with lingering sense of cosmic nostalgia and practical determination to address the dimensional rifts threatening immediate reality. Whatever his cosmic origins might be, his human connections and responsibilities remained his anchor and purpose. The operation commenced at dawn. 3 teams deploying simultaneously to the active rift sites. Naruto accompanied Mei directly, while Charmcaster provided specialized sealing materials to the secondary teams. Having spent the night adapting Kurigaku's Fuinjutsu scrolls with magical enhancements, their target, the largest dimensional breach, manifested as a vertical tear in reality approximately 15 feet tall. Situated on a rocky outcropping that barely qualified as an island. Unlike the previous site's temporal stasis field, this anomaly generated visible energy pulses that distorted surrounding space in rhythmic patterns. Pulsating rather than stable, Charmcaster observed as they approached cautiously. This rift is actively drawing energy from both sides rather than maintaining equilibrium. Growing stronger, Mei concluded, analyzing the phenomenon with practiced tactical assessment. Estimated time before critical expansion. Hours, not days, the sorceress confirmed grimly. E-dimensional membrane is thinning with each pulse. Naruto extended his senses toward the rift, golden pink energy flowing just beneath his skin as he perceived frequencies beyond standard awareness. Within the dimensional tear, something moved, not crossing through, but observing from the threshold between realities. "We're being watched," he stated quietly. "Something intelligent is monitoring this breach from the other side." Mei immediately signaled her sensor team, who expanded their perceptual jutsu to maximum range. "Confirmed," the lead sensor reported. "Chakra pattern unlike anything in our records, if it even is chakra. Definitely sentient." Charmcaster began preparing sealing arrays, magenta energy flowing from her fingertips to create complex patterns around the rift's perimeter. "We need to close this before whatever's watching decides to emerge." Naruto nodded, golden pink energy now manifesting visibly around his hands as he prepared to channel the Anodite power. The previous day's experience had increased his control significantly, where once the energy had emerged unpredictably, now it responded to precise intention. "Be cautious," Kurama warned internally. "The entity beyond the rift seems calculating." "Ready?" Naruto asked his companions. At their confirmation, he began channeling Anodite energy into Charmcaster's prepared framework, golden pink light interweaving with her magenta symbols to create a containment field around the dimensional tier. Simultaneously, Mei and her team activated modified Fuinjutsu scrolls designed to compress spatial distortions. The combined techniques began forcing the rift closed, reality knitting together as the interdimensional membrane strengthened. For a moment, success seemed imminent, then everything changed. The watching presence suddenly surged forward, not physically crossing the threshold but projecting energy tendrils that latched onto the sealing matrix itself. Instead of trying to keep the rift open, it was manipulating their own techniques, redirecting and amplifying the dimensional compression. "Something's wrong," Charmcaster called, struggling to maintain control of her spell components. "It's using our own sealing energy too." The rift collapsed with explosive force, not opening wider as feared, but sealing completely in uncontrolled implosion that created momentary vacuum effect. The backdraft knocked everyone backward, even Mei's experienced Jonin struggling to maintain footing on the rocky surface. When the dust settled, the dimensional tear had vanished completely. Where it had stood, a small crystalline object pulsed with multicolored light, similar to the remnant of the Aetheris Hound's containment, but geometrically more complex. "What happened?" Mei demanded, ready organizing defensive perimeter around the mysterious object. Charmcaster approached cautiously, magenta energy scanning the crystal. "It helped us close the rift," she said, confusion evident in her voice. "But deliberately created this crystalline anchor in the process." A message, Naruto realized as he studied the pulsing object. Without conscious thought, he reached toward it, gold and pink energy extending from his fingertips to make contact. The moment connection established, information flooded his consciousness, not language but pure conceptual transfer, images and impression. Cascading through awareness like tidal wave. Progenitor. Awakening detected. Multiple entities approaching. Prepare. Unlike the chronovore's simplistic warning, this message carried sophisticate detail. Impressions of various dimensional beings drawn to his awakening energy, some hostile, others curious, all potentially disruptive to the delicate balance between realities. When the connection broke, Naruto staggered slightly, processing the information surge. It was a warning, he explained to his concerned companions. And a deliberate communication. Whatever was watching helped seal the rift properly while leaving this interdimensional beacon. "From a liar enemy?" Mei asked practically. "Uncertain," Naruto admitted, "but definitely intelligent and seemingly concerned about dimensional stability." Before further discussion could develop, communication seals activated with urgent messages from the secondary teams, both reporting successful rift closure with similar crystalline remnants. More significantly, both teams described experiencing information transfer when attempting to examine the objects. Coordinated action across all three sites, Mei observed, tactical mind immediately grasping implications. Deliberate rather than coincidental, Charmcaster studied the crystal with intense fascination. These aren't just message devices. They're dimensional anchors, stabilizing points between realities. Quote, "For what purpose?" Naruto wondered. "Unknown," the sorceress admitted. "But their geometric configuration suggests they're designed to work in concert when brought together." Mei made immediate tactical decision. Collect all three artifacts. Return to command center for secure analysis. As her team implemented these orders, Naruto exchanged significant glances with Charmcaster. Both recognized the situation had evolved beyond initial assessment, no longer merely containing random dimensional breaches but engaging with intelligent entities deliberately interacting across realities. The communication left in the crystals suggested preparation rather than immediate threat, but preparation for what remained disturbingly unclear. Whatever cosmic entities had noticed his awakening Anodite energy, they clearly believed others would follow their awareness. Others who might not share their apparent concern for dimensional stability. As they returned to the command island, Naruto felt the weight of cosmic implications settling alongside practical tactical concerns. If his awakening truly represented the return of some primal energy source to active consciousness, the repercussions extended far beyond personal transformation. For better or worse, boundaries between dimensions had begun thinning, and whatever lay beyond those boundaries had definitely noticed. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Lightning in Kumo. 3 days after the Kurigakure operation, storm clouds gathered over the jagged mountains of Lightning Country. Thunder rumbled through narrow valleys as rain lashed against the steeply ascending paths leading to Kumogakure. Unlike most hidden villages that relied on forests or natural barriers for concealment, Kumo flaunted its presence. Perched impossibly on mountain peaks, its gleaming structures visible for miles against the dramatic backdrop of lightning-split skies. Naruto stood beneath an outcropping of rock, momentarily heltering from the downpour as he surveyed the village looming above. The journey from water country had been uneventful but thought-provoking, allowing time to process recent developments. Mei Terumi had proven both a valuable ally and a complex diplomatic partner, her initial cooperation extending to formal agreement for continued information exchange regarding dimensional anomalies. She also invited you back for those healing hot springs. Once the immediate crisis passed, Kurama reminded him with poorly concealed amusement. An invitation carrying multiple potential interpretations. We have more pressing concerns. Naruto replied internally, though he couldn't entirely dismiss the Nine-Tails observation. The Mizukage's diplomatic courtesy had indeed carried undertones that transcended mere political alliance, something he would need to address eventually, but not before understanding the cosmic implications of his awakening abilities. Lightning crackled overhead, momentarily illuminating the mountainside in stark relief. The electrical discharge tingled against Naruto's skin, not uncomfortably but noticeably. His heightened sensitivity to energy manifestations had increased steadily since the first emergence of his Anodite powers. Kakashi-sama's message indicated we should rendezvous with the Raikage's representatives at the northern gate, Sai noted, consulting the scroll containing their diplomatic credentials. The artist shinobi had accompanied Naruto from Konoha, while Charmcaster traveled separately, having remained in Kurigakure an extra day to study the crystalline artifacts left by the dimensional entity. They'll likely be monitoring our approach already, Naruto observed, sensing the distinctive chakra patterns of Kumo's sensor division scattered strategically throughout the mountain range. Unlike Konoha's more centralized surveillance systems, Kumogakure maintained overlapping perceptual networks covering every possible approach to their village. As if confirming his assessment, two figures materialized from the storm-obscured path ahead, their white Kumo uniforms somehow pristine despite the torrential rain, chakra-reinforced fabric ling water through specialized weaving techniques unique to Lightning Country artisans. Uzumaki Naruto, the lead figure, acknowledged formally. I am Darui, personal advisor to Raikage-sama. We've been instructed to escort you directly to the summit pavilion. The dark-skinned Jonin's reputation had grown significantly since the war, his black lightning techniques and level-headed tactical approach earning him position as A's most trusted lieutenant. Beside him stood a kunoichi whose presence immediately captured Naruto's full attention. Statuesque and poised, with short blonde hair framing striking features, Samui of the Cloud represented everything Kumo valued in its elite shinobi: disciplined, analytical, and possessed of quiet confidence that required no theatrical display. Her peer, Ching Blue Eyes, assessed Naruto with clinical precision, noting changes since their last encounter during the war. The energy anomalies have intensified since your departure from Water Country, she stated without preamble. Her tone factual rather than accusatory. 3 new dimensional disturbances have been detected within Lightning Country borders in the past 24 hours. Naruto nodded, unsurprised but concerned by this development. Similar pattern to the Kurigakure rifts. Negative, Samui replied precisely. These manifestations appear more stable. Less like tears in reality, more like windows. This variation from expected pattern immediately triggered Naruto's tactical concerns. Windows implying observation rather than transit. A flicker of approval crossed Samui's features, appreciation for his immediate grasp of the distinction's significance. Precisely. Our sensor division detects energy exchange but no physical movement between dimensions. Someone, or something, is watching rather than crossing. We should continue this discussion at the summit pavilion, Darui interjected pragmatically. The Raikage awaits your briefing, along with representatives from Earth Country who have reported similar phenomena. As they ascended toward the village, Naruto found himself matching pace with Samui, whose measured strides suggested no wasted energy or motion, efficiency personified. Despite the driving rain, she moved with graceful precision, each step perfectly placed on the treacherous mountain path. You've been assigned to the Dimensional Investigation Team, he inquired, genuinely curious about her specific involvement. Samui's gaze remained focused on the path ahead. I've been tasked with assessing potential threats to Kumo's security, she answered with characteristic directness. Including evaluation of your role in these events. The candid acknowledgement of surveillance assignment might have offended some, but Naruto appreciated her honesty. In the complex post-war political landscape, prudent villages maintained awareness of all potential power shifts, even those involving presumed allies. Then I'll try to be transparently mysterious, he replied with slight smile. Deliberately using contradictory terms, this unexpected wordplay earned a glance from the serious Kunoichi. An oxymoron, she observed, but surprisingly apt for the current situation. Your recent activities have been visibly documented yet fundamentally inexplicable. Their conversation paused as they reached Kumogakure's impressive northern gate, massive GHTNING conductor rods flanking an entrance carved directly into the mountainside. Unlike Konoha's wooden structures or Kiri's mist-shrouded approaches, Kumo's architecture embraced dramatic verticality. Structures built both into and atop the mountain peaks, connected by elaborate bridge networks that glowed with chakra-infused illumination against the storm-darkened sky. Inside, they were led Hero ascending platforms to the summit pavilion, a striking hexagonal structure suspended between three mountain peaks, accessible only by a single bridge that could be retracted in emergency situations. The pavilion's design featured lightning rod arrays that not only protected the structure but actively harvested electrical energy from the frequent mountain storms, powering Kumo's advanced research facilities. Awaited within, his imposing physique having lost none of its intimidating mass since relinquishing the raikage position to his younger brother Darui. Though technically retired, the elder shinobi maintained significant influence as strategic advisor, particularly regarding matters of village security. Uzumaki, he acknowledged with characteristic bluntness as they entered. About time. These dimensional disturbances are spreading faster than intelligence reports can track them. The meeting room contained not only Kumo officials but also representatives from Iwagakure, most notably Kuretsuchi, granddaughter of the former Tsuchikage, whose presence indicated Earth Country's serious concern regarding the situation. The dark-haired Kunoichi nodded respectfully toward Naruto, though her eyes held natural wariness born of generational conflict between their villages. Before we begin formal discussion, stated, I believe clarification is required regarding certain reports from Kurigakure. His penetrating gaze fixed directly on Naruto. Specifically, accounts of you manifesting energy patterns unlike any recorded chakra signature, capable of affecting interdimensional entities. The directness was unsurprising. Kumogakure's diplomatic approach had always favored forthright confrontation over subtle maneuvering. What interested Naruto more was Samui's posit, ioning, not beside or among Kumo's General Security Council, but slightly apart, her analytical gaze steadily assessing his response. Not merely observer but evaluator. The reports are accurate, Naruto confirmed. Deciding transparency within careful limits remained the best approach. During investigation of the initial dimensional anomaly, I discovered previously dormant abilities connected to the source energy that powers these rifts. Connected how, exactly? Kuretsuchi inquired, her tone professionally neutral despite Iwa's historical suspicion toward Konoha shinobi. Naruto chose his next words carefully. Aware of the political implications. The energy appears to be a more fundamental form of what our world developed as chakra, potentially predating the Sage of Six Paths himself. This statement generated immediate tension throughout the room. Such fundamental revision of accepted chakra theory carried implications beyond academic interest, potentially affecting everything from village training methods to strategic power balance among nations. That's a significant claim, Darui observed with characteristic understatement. Which is precisely why we've proceeded cautiously with information disclosure. Naruto explained. Until we fully understand the relationship between this energy and conventional chakra, premature speculation could generate unnecessary instability. I studied him with narrowed eyes, decades of battlefield experience informing his assessment. You've changed since the war, Uzumaki. More diplomatic in your approach. But the fundamental question remains. Does this discovery represent potential threat to established village security? Before Naruto could respond, the pavilion's massive windows illuminated with blinding light as lightning struck the collection array directly above them. The electrical discharge cascaded through specialized conductive materials, momentarily charging the entire chamber with residual energy. Within that illumination, Naruto's control slipped fractionally, golden pink energy briefly manifesting around his form before he could suppress it. The display lasted mere seconds, but the assembled shinobi missed nothing. Their trained perceptions cataloging every detail of the unusual manifestation. That, stated into the subsequent silence, was definitely not tailed beast chakra. No, Naruto acknowledged, recognizing further evasion would prove counterproductive. It's what the interdimensional specialist who arrived through the initial rift identifies as mana, pure life energy that forms the foundation of all chakra systems. Samui stepped forward, her analytical mind already processing implications. You indicated connection to your dormant abilities, she noted precisely. This suggests inherent capacity rather than external acquisition. Genetic predisposition. The question demonstrated her exceptional analytical skills, immediately targeting the most significant distinction in how villages would perceive this development. Inherited bloodline abilities carried different political implications than acquired powers or forbidden techniques. Evidence suggests so, Naruto confirmed. Though the full nature of the connection remains under investigation. Kuretsuchi leaned forward, Earth country pragmatism evident in her direct approach. While theoretical origins are academically interesting, immediate practical concerns take priority. Can these abilities help address the dimensional rifts threatening our borders? Yes, Naruto stated with confidence born from Kuritiker experience. Working alongside the dimensional specialist, we successfully closed multiple rifts in water country. Similar methods should prove effective here. This practical focus shifted the meeting's atmosphere from tense speculation toward operational planning. For the next hour, Naruto detailed the Kuritiker operation while Kumo and Iwa representatives provided intelligence on their respective anomalies. Unlike water country's active breaches, the dimensional windows in Lightning Country appeared designed specifically for observation, one-way apertures through which entities from other dimensions monitored the shinobi world without physically crossing the boundary. These aren't random phenomena, Samui concluded after analyzing the combined intelligence reports. The pattern suggests deliberate surveillance preceding potential incursion, standard tactical procedure when assessing unknown territory. A nodded, strategic mind immediately grasping implications. We're being reconnoitered. The question becomes, by whom, and with what intention? The specialist who arrived through the initial rift might provide insight, Naruto suggested. Charmcaster possesses extensive knowledge of interdimensional entities and their typical behaviors. The silver-haired woman mentioned in Kuritiker's report. Darui inquired, when will she arrive? Within 24 hours, Naruto confirmed. She remained in water country to study artifacts left by the entity that communicated through the crystalline structures. A made immediate tactical decision. Samui will serve as primary liaison for Konoha's representatives during this investigation. Her analytical capabilities and lightning nature affinity may prove complementary when addressing these phenomena. The assignment subtext was clear. While officially collaborative, Samui would also evaluate potential advantages or threats Naruto's unusual abilities might represent to Kumogakure's interests. The blonde Kuno, Ichi accepted with characteristic efficiency, neither enthusiastic nor reluctant, simply prepared to execute assigned duties with maximum effectiveness. As the meeting concluded with establishment of joint response protocols, Naruto found himself walking alongside Samui toward the accommodations prepared for Konoha's delegation. Outside, the storm had intensified, lightning strikes illuminating the village in staccato bursts of brilliant clarity before plunging architecture back into rain-blurred shadow. Your control has improved significantly since the initial manifestation in water country. Samui observed as they traversed an external walkway between towers. Her statement carried no accusatory edge, simply factual assessment based on the brief display during the meeting. Practice helps, Naruto acknowledged. Though certain environmental factors can still trigger unintentional manifestation. Electrical discharge being one such factor, she noted, connecting his momentary slip to the lightning strike. Interesting correlation. Lightning nature chakra may resonate with this mana energy at fundamental frequency levels. Her immediate leap to theoretical energy mechanics raw, than political implications impressed Naruto. Unlike many village representatives primarily concerned with power balance implications, Samui approached the phenomenon with genuine analytical interest. "That's an insightful hypothesis," he responded. "We've observed different elemental affinities affecting how the energy manifests." Samui nodded, clearly filing this information for further analysis. The accommodations include access to Kumo's research archives, she informed him as they reached the guest quarters, a cylindrical structure built into the mountainside with panoramic windows overlooking the dramatically vertical village landscape. Materials regarding lightning nature chakra theory have been preselected based on potential relevance. The thoughtful preparation demonstra Ted Kumogakur's serious approach to the investigation. Whatever political calculations might be occurring simultaneously, they genuinely sought to understand the dimensional phenomena threatening their territory. "Thank you," Naruto said sincerely. "Collaboration benefits everyone when dimensional stability is at stake." A ghost of a smile touched Samui's composed features, so brief another might have missed it entirely. Pragmatic cooperation. Efficient approach. With that characteristically concise assessment, she provided necessary access credentials and departed to prepare her preliminary report for Kumo's Security Council. Left alone in the surprisingly comfortable guest quarters, Naruto took a moment to center himself, golden pink energy briefly manifesting as he released the tie. Chi control maintained throughout the diplomatic exchange. The Anodite power had grown increasingly responsive to his emotional state, not merely conscious direction but subconscious impulse affecting its manifestation. "The Kumo woman sees more than she reveals," Kurama observed internally. "Her analytical capacity exceeds most shinobi I've observed through my hosts over centuries." Samui's reputation for strategic assessment is well earned, Naruto agreed. "Though I appreciate her focus on understanding the phenomenon rather than merely calculating political advantage." For now, the Nine Tails cautioned. "Never forget every hidden village prioritizes its own interests above all. Even during cooperative ventures." This cynical but pragmatic perspective had value, Naruto acknowledged as he reviewed the materials provided by Kumo's research division. The detailed treatises on lightning nature chakra theory reflected generations of specialized knowledge unique to Lightning Country, in formation normally guarded jealously from outside villages. While such access demonstrated good faith, it simultaneously served Kumo's interests by potentially yielding insights into the dimensional threats affecting their territory. True cooperation always balanced mutual benefit against individual advantage, a reality of shinobi politics Naruto had come to understand intimately during post-war reconstruction efforts. As night descended over the mountain peaks, the storm intensified rather than dissipating, unusual even for Lightning Country's dramatic weather patterns. From his quarters windows, Naruto observed lightning strikes increasing in both frequency and intensity, multiple simultaneous discharges creating spider web patterns across the darkened sky. "Unnatural," Kurama noted, he Nine Tails' ancient senses detecting subtle distortion in the atmospheric chakra flows. "The dimensional windows are affecting weather patterns." Naruto extended his awareness beyond normal perception, allowing the golden pink energy to enhance his senses. Immediately, he detected what conventional chakra perception might miss. The lightning wasn't merely striking randomly but following specific geometric patterns. As though guided by unseen influence, a soft knock interrupted his observation. Opening the door revealed Samui, her normally immaculate appearance slightly disheveled, suggesting urgent deployment from field conditions. "The anomalies have changed configuration," she stated without preamble. "All 7-dimensional windows have begun emitting directed energy pulses toward Kumo's main lightning collection array. The rakeage requests your immediate presence at the central facility." Naruto nodded, grabbing his gear without hesitation. "The storm's behavior is being manipulated," he confirmed as they hurried through increasingly turbulent conditions toward Kumogakur's central peak where the massive primary collection array dominated the village skyline. "Affirmative," Samui replied, voice raised slightly against the howling wind. "Atmospheric chakra density has increased 327% beyond normal parameters for seasonal storm activity. Energy signatures match dimension frequency patterns identified in previous anomalies." Her precise statistical assessment amid crisis conditions highlighted her exceptional analytical capabilities, not merely observing but quantifying complex phenomena even while navigating treacherous conditions. They traversed rain-slicked bridges connecting Kumo's vertical structures, lightning illuminating their path in brilliant flashes. Had left lingering afterimages across vision. The central collection facility occupied Kumogakure's highest peak, a technological marvel combining ancient chakra principles with advanced engineering. Harvest natural lightning for village power systems. Under normal circumstances, the array channeled electrical energy through specialized conductors into storage seals distributed throughout the mountain. Tonight, however, the massive structure pulsed with unnatural luminescence as lightning struck not randomly but in perfectly synchronized patterns, each discharge connecting to specific points along the collection rods with impossible precision. Darui and Kumo's senior research team had assembled within the control center, a reinforced chamber embedded in the mountainside adjacent to the array. Monitoring systems displayed alarming readings as chakra levels throughout the collection system exceeded designed parameters. It began 17 minutes ago, the lead researcher explained as they entered. Gesturing toward diagnostic displays, the dimensional windows simultaneously changed emission frequency, generating electromagnetic pulses that appeared to be programming our collection array. Programming it for what purpose? Naruto asked, immediately grasping the concerning implication. Unknown, Samui answered, already analyzing incoming data with remarkable speed. But the energy accumulation curve suggests preparations for massive singular discharge rather than standard distribution patterns. Outside, the lightning strikes intensified further, no longer mere spheric discharge but coordinated assault on specific array components. The collection system's warning indicators transitioned from cautionary yellow to critical red as power levels approached system tolerance thresholds. If the array overloads, the resulting explosion could destabilize the entire mountain, Darui stated, tactical mind calculating worst-case scenarios. Evacuating the village under these conditions is impossible. Naruto studied the monitoring systems, golden-pink energy enhancing his perception of the energy flows. Within the chaos of overloading systems, he detected not random accumulation but deliberate configuration, as though the lightning itself was being shaped into specific geometric structure within the collection array. They're not trying to overload it, he realized suddenly. They're reconfiguring it, transforming your collection array into something else entirely. A's eyes narrowed dangerously. Into what? A dimensional amplifier, came a new voice from the chamber entrance. Charmcaster stood there, her journey from water country apparently accelerated by unfolding events. The sorceress's clothing was soaked from the storm, but her expression reflected academic fascination rather than physical discomfort. They're converting your lightning collectors into a multi-dimensional broadcast system. Samui immediately connected implications. Broadcasting what? And to whom? Quote, the energy signature itself, Charmcaster explained, moving quickly to examine the monitoring systems. This world's chakra system represents unique evolutio-nary adaptation of fundamental mana principles. Someone wants samples. Detailed analysis of how energy manifests differently across dimensional boundaries. Scientific research, Darui questioned skeptically. Or military intelligence gathering, countered grimly. Assessing potential opposition capabilities before invasion. The hypothesis aligned with Kumogakure's strategic thinking, gathering intelligence on enemy techniques before engaging represented standard operational procedure. If interdimensional entities approached contact through similar tactical framework, the current activity might indeed represent reconnaissance preceding potential conflict. We need to disrupt the reconfiguration process, Naruto stated decisively. Can we safely deactivate the collection array? The lead researcher shook his head emphatically. Impossible under current conditions. The system's emergency shutdown protocols have been overridden by the external energy source. Any attempt to forcibly disconnect could trigger catastrophic discharge. Charmcaster studied the monitoring displays intently, her expression reflecting rapid calculation. We don't need to shut it down, she concluded. Quote, we need to complete the transformation but control the broadcast content. Meaning, demanded. Instead of allowing them to sample your world's natural energy patterns, the sorceress elaborated. We provide specifically crafted energy signature, something that communicates deterrent rather than vulnerability. Naruto immediately grasped her strategy. We hijack their own reconnaissance system. Precisely, Charmcaster confirmed. But it would require channeling massive energy through the array while simultaneously imposing controlled pattern, beyond standard chakra manipulation capabilities. All eyes turned to Naruto. The implication clear. His awakening Anodite abilities represented their best chance at the necessary energy control. The golden pink power had demonstrated capacity to interact with dimensional phenomena beyond what conventional jutsu could affect. I'll need to interface directly with the array, he stated, mind already mapping potential approach. At the airy conduction point where the lightning enters the collection system. That's suicide, Darui objected. The electrical discharge at the main collector exceeds 50 million volts during normal operation. Under these conditions, I'll assist, Samui interrupted, her cool assessment cutting through emotional reaction. My lightning release. Thunder body technique allows direct chakra synchronization with electrical discharge. I can create buffer zone around the primary interface point. I studied both shinobi with veterans calculating gaze, weighing potential success against guaranteed risk. After brief consideration, he nodded sharply. Proceed. All non-essential personnel evacuate to secondary bunkers. As researchers and support staff hurriedly implemented evacuation protocols, Naruto turned to Charmcaster. What exactly should we broadcast to these observers? The sorceress's violet eyes gleamed with strategic calculation. Strength without aggression. Defensive capability without direct threat. A message that communicates both awareness of their presence and capacity to respond if necessary. Balanced deterrence, Samui summarized concisely, already preparing her specialized equipment for the dangerous ascent to the array's primary collection point, a massive conductor rod extending from the facility's uppermost level directly into the storm-racked sky. The journey to the interface required traversing increasingly treacherous conditions as the unnatural storm intensified around them. Wind howled between Kumo's mountain peaks with hurricane force while lightning struck with such frequency that darkness never fully returned between flashes. Chakra-enhanced movement allowed them to maintain progress despite conditions that would render ordinary travel impossible. Samui moved with remarkable efficiency despite the chaos, her body occasionally transitioning partially into electrical form as she utilized specialized Kumo techniques to navigate lightning-saturated atmosphere. The transformation wasn't merely practical necessity but demonstrated impressive chakra control, maintaining coherent physicality while partially existing as pure energy. Your thunder body technique, Naruto observed as they ascended exterior maintenance ladders toward the array's summit. It's similar to the fourth Hokage's flying thunder god in conceptual framework. Despite the crisis conditions, Samui's analytical mind engaged with the theoretical comparison. Similar energy state transition principles but distinct application parameters, she confirmed. Minato Nami, K's converted physical form to chakra construct for instantaneous spatial repositioning. Thunder body maintains continuous transformation between states for sustained environmental integration. The technical distinction highlighted her detailed knowledge of advanced chakra theory, not merely capable of executing complex techniques but understanding fundamental principles underlying their function. This theoretical foundation would prove essential for the unprecedented energy manipulation they were about to attempt. They reached the primary interface platform as lightning converged from all directions toward the central conductor rod, a 30-foot spire of specialized metal alloys designed to attract and channel atmospheric discharge. Under normal operation, this component represented Mobiker's crowning technological achievement. Tonight, it had become potential village-destroying liability as interdimensional entities repurposed its function. The dimensional windows are still transmitting programming sequences. Charmcaster reported through their communication devices, monitoring from the relative safety of the control center. You have approximately 3 minutes before array completes transformation into broadcast configuration. Samui immediately began preparatory sequence for her thunder body technique, chakra visibly crackling around her form as she established desynchronization with the electrical field saturating the platform. I can create stable interface zone for 45 seconds maximum, she informed Naruto precisely. Beyond that threshold, even my specialized resistance will fail against this discharge magnitude. Naruto nodded understanding of the narrow operational window. That should be sufficient. As Samui completed her preparations, He reached internally toward the golden pink energy that had awakened within him, no longer merely accessing it as external power source but recognizing it as fundamental aspect of his true nature. The Anodite abilities responded with increasing fluidity to his intention, flowing through and around him in elegant patterns that reflected both conscious direction and intuitive recognition. "Ready," Samui announced, her body beginning remarkable transformation as lightning release chakra converted her physical form into electromagnetic energy state, not completely immaterial but existing simultaneously. USLY as solid matter and electrical current, the perfect interface between biological entity and pure energy system. "Now," she commanded, extending her transformed state to create protective field around Naruto as he approached the primary conductor. The moment his hands contacted the massive rod, incomprehensible power surged through his body, millions of volts of atmospheric lightning channeled directly through his chakra network. Without Samui's protective field, instant carbonization would have resulted. Even with her extraordinary technique creating buffer zone, the raw energy threatened to overwhelm conventional human limitations. But Naruto was no longer operating through conventional parameters. The golden pink anodite energy responded instantaneously, not merely defending again the electrical onslaught but actively integrating it, transforming destructive power into coherent pattern guided by his intention. Through their temporary energy state connection, Samui gasped as her analytical senses perceived the transformation occurring before her. Naruto's chakra network wasn't simply channeling the power, it was fundamentally reconfiguring it, imposing order upon chaos with precision exceeding any technique in Kumogakure's extensive lightning manipulation archives. "Guide it, Kit," Kurama urged internally, the Nine Tails consciousness merging with Naruto's to stabilize the overwhelming sensory input. "Shape the message." With their combined awareness, Naruto visualized the energy pattern Charmcaster had described: strength balanced with restraint, awareness without aggression, capacity for response without direct threat. The golden pink anodite power translated this complex conceptual framework into pure energy language, imposing deliberate signature upon the electrical discharge flowing through the collection array. In that moment of perfect synchronization, Naruto perceived something extraordinary: brief connection to awareness beyond the dimensional windows. Entities observing from multiple realities simultaneously. Not communication in conventional sense but recognition across dimensional boundaries, acknowledgement of conscious intention flowing through energy patterns. Then everything changed. The dimensional windows that had been directing programming sequences toward the array suddenly shifted configuration, no longer transmitting but receiving, absorbing the modified energy signature Naruto was projecting. The observers had detected the hijacking of their reconnaissance system and responded by reversing energy flow direction. "They're pulling now instead of pushing." Charmcaster's alarmed voice came through the communication system. "The energy drain has increased exponentially." Samui recognized the danger immediately. "We need to disengage," she warned, her thunder body technique already showing signs of instability as the electrical field intensified beyond calculated parameters. The feedback loop is amplifying beyond containment capacity. But Naruto had glimpsed something crucial during the momentary connection: recognition from the observing entities, not merely of his energy signature but of his fundamental nature. The anodite essence they had detected awakening in this dimension held significance beyond mere curiosity. There was reverence in their awareness, tinged with concern. "Almost finished," he responded, maintaining connection despite the escalating danger. The golden pink energy had completely enveloped both him and Samui now, creating a cocoon of anodite power that sustained them against the impossible electrical forces converging through the conductor. Through their temporary energy state connection, complex information flowed between them, not conscious communication but direct transfer of understanding as Samui's analytical mind processed aspects of the anodite power while Naruto's awareness integrated her profound knowledge of electrical energy dynamics. The unique synchronicity created unexpected catalyst, their combined consciousness momentarily transcending individual limitations to perceive multidimensional pattern underlying the observer's activity. Not simple reconnaissance but verification, confirming emergence of specific energy signature they had been programmed to identify. With this insight came sudden clarity regarding appropriate response. Naruto shaped the gold and pink energy into precise configuration, not merely deterrent message but complex identifier, specific signature that would register across dimensional boundaries as declaration of sovereignty. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The dimensional windows responded to the identifier by ceasing energy extraction, their configurations shifting from active engagement to passive monitoring. Whatever entities controlled these observation points had received sufficient confirmation of what they sought. Disengage now, Charmcaster urged through the communication system. The array is returning to normal operational parameters. But the energy backwash will hit in approximately 15 seconds. Samui immediately initiated disconnection sequence, her thunder body technique retracting from the conductor interface as she pulled Naruto physically away from contact point. The transition from energy state synchronicity back to separate physical forms created momentary vulnerability, both shinobi staggering as neural systems readjusted to conventional sensory parameters. They barely cleared the platform before accumulated energy discharged throughout the array in blinding cascade that temporarily overloaded Kumogakure's entire power distribution network. Emergency systems activated automatically, rerouting critical functions to backup systems as the primary collectors reset to standard configuration. As sudden darkness fell across the village, replaced moments later by auxiliary lighting, Naruto and Samui made their way carefully back toward the control center. The storm had dissipated with unnatural suddenness, the dimensional manipulation apparently concluded with whatever information had been gathered. Your energy manipulation exceeded theoretical parameters for human chakra capacity, Samui noted as they descended, her analytical mind already processing the unprecedented phenomenon she had witnessed. Despite the danger they had just survived, her voice remained remarkably composed, though Naruto detected subtle undertones of genuine fascination beneath her professional demeanor. It wasn't conventional chakra, he acknowledged, knowing her direct sensory experience. During their energy state connection made concealment pointless. The Anodite energy operates through different fundamental principles. Principles you appear to access instinctively rather than through trained technique, she observed, suggesting inherent affinity rather than acquired methodology. Her assessment highlighted her exceptional analytical capabilities, immediately identifying the most significant aspect of what she had witnessed. The golden pink energy responded to Naruto's intention rather than specific hand signs or trained sequences, operating through intuitive connection rather than imposed structure. That's accurate, he confirmed, impressed by her perceptiveness. Though I'm still understanding the full implications myself. Samui nodded, accepting this limitation without pressing further, though Naruto suspected her internal analysis continued regardless, cataloging observations for future consideration. They reached the control center to find Charmcaster already deep in discussion with Kumo's research team, comparing readings taken during the incident. The dimensional windows have reverted to passive observation state, the sorceress reported as they entered. Whatever they sought to verify, your transmission apparently provided sufficient confirmation. Studied Naruto with renewed intensity, veteran warrior's instincts recognizing fundamental shift in capability beyond what reports from Kurigakure had suggested. Explanation, Uzumaki. What exactly did you transmit through my village's collection array? The direct question deserved equal direct response, particularly given the risk Kumogakur personnel had accepted during the operation. Naruto exchanged brief glance with Charmcaster, who nodded slightly, acknowledging necessity of increased disclosure. An identifier, he explained carefully. During connection with the array, I perceived the observers weren't merely gathering random energy samples but specifically seeking verification of Anodite presence in this dimension. Anodite, Darui questioned. Beings of pure mana, the energy from which chakra ultimately derived, Charmcaster elaborated. Entities capable of manipulating fundamental forces across dimensional boundaries. And they detected this energy awakening within you, Samui concluded, her analytical mind immediately connecting disparate information points. The dimensional disturbances began precisely when your abilities manifested. Naruto nodded confirmation. According to what we've learned, the golden pink energy represents the original source, from which the Sage of Six Paths derived what our world now calls chakra. This statement generated predictable tension throughout the control center, such fundamental revision of established understanding carried implications beyond mere academic interest. If chakra itself derived from external dimensional source rather than representing unique shinobi world development, centuries of established theory required reconsideration. These observers, focused on immediate practical concern rather than theoretical implications. Do they represent threat or opportunity? Unknown, Charmcaster admitted, but their shift from active extraction to passive monitoring suggests your sovereignty declaration registered effectively. She glanced toward Naruto with scholarly curiosity. Though I'm still unclear exactly what identifier you transmitted. Before Naruto could respond, the facility's primary system suddenly reactivated, power returning to main distribution networks as Kumo's coal Seishin array reset to normal operational parameters. On monitoring displays, energy readings indicated complete restoration of standard functionality with no residual interference patterns. Fascinating, the lead researcher murmured, examining diagnostic reports. The array hasn't merely returned to baseline, it's operating at 127% normal efficiency. Whatever reconfiguration occurred during the incident actually optimized several key distribution nodes. Deliberate improvement? Darui questioned skeptically. Or incidental side effect of interdimensional energy interaction, Samui suggested, her analytical mind already formulating testable hypotheses regarding the phenomenon. Whatever the explanation, immediate crisis had apparently passed, the dimensional windows maintaining passive observation without further attempt to manipulate Kumoviker's systems. After confirming village-wide security status, a dismissed emergency response teams while requesting comprehensive incident analysis from Research Division. Samui will continue primary liaison duties, he informed Naruto as operational staff dispersed to respective assignments. Your accommodations remain available. We reconvene at 0800 hours to assess interdimensional activity across Lightning Country borders. The pronouncement carried unmistakable subtext. Cooperation would continue, but Kumoviker would simultaneously pursue independent analysis of what they had witnessed. Naruto had expected nothing less from the strategically minded village. As they departed the facility, Charmcaster fell into step beside him, voice pitched for private conversation. The crystalline artifacts from Kurigakure contain references to interdimensional recognition protocols, she informed him quietly. Specific energy patterns identify authorized transit between dimensional boundaries. Similar to what I transmitted through the array, Naruto surmised. Precisely. The sorceress's expression reflected scholarly excitement, and barely contained beneath professional composure. You accessed ancient recognition sequence without prior exposure to the protocol, further evidence supporting the progenitor theory. This ass's SM, and aligned with Naruto's experience during connection with the array. The identifier hadn't been consciously constructed but intuitively recognized, like remembering language not spoken since childhood. The implications continued expanding beyond personal transformation toward cosmic significance he could barely comprehend. They reached the guest accommodations as Kumoviker settled into uneasy normalcy following the incident, village security protocols maintaining heightened alert status despite apparent threat reduction. Charmcaster departed to examine research materials provided by Kumo's archives, her scholarly curiosity evidently overriding physical exhaustion from accelerated journey. Somewhat surprisingly, Samui remained rather than immediately reporting to Kumo's intelligence division. The blonde Kunoichi's expression revealed nothing of her thoughts as she accompanied Naruto to his quarters. You experienced direct sensory connection to the Anodite energy during our interface with the array, he noted as they reached the accommodation entrance. That would generate questions for someone with your analytical perspective. Samui considered this observation momentarily BEF. Or responding with characteristic precision. 17 questions, specifically. Though efficient information exchange suggests prioritizing the three most immediately relevant. Despite the serious circumstances, Naruto found himself appreciating her uniquely methodical approach, quantifying even her own curiosity with numerical specificity. I'm willing to address those three, at minimum. She nodded once, accepting this reasonable parameter. First, during energy state synchronization, my consciousness briefly perceived something beyond conventional sensory framework, awareness extending across multiple dimensional planes simultaneously. Was this representative of standard Anodite perception? The question demonstrated both her exceptional observational capacity and immediate focus on the most significant aspect of their shared experience. During their temporary connection, Samui's consciousness had indeed briefly experienced perception beyond normal human limitations. Yes, Naruto confirmed. According to Charmcaster, Anodite awareness naturally encompasses multiple dimensional frequencies simultaneously. During our energy synchronization, that perceptual capacity temporarily extended to your consciousness as well. Samui processed this with remarkable composure, though subtle tension in her posture suggested the experience had affected her more profoundly than her exterior indicated. Second question. The energy responded to conceptual intention rather than structured technique. Does this represent fundamental difference between chakra and mana operational principles? Again, her analytical mind had immediately identified crucial distinction between energy systems. While chakra required specific hand signs and trained methodology, the Anodite energy responded directly to conceptual framework, intention shaping manifestation without intermediate technical structure. That's our current understanding, Naruto acknowledged. Chakra requires structured direct ion through hand signs and specific pathways. Mana responds directly to conceptual visualization, though that apparently requires different mental discipline. Samui nodded, filing this information with evident satisfaction. Final priority question. During interface connection, I perceived distinct recognition from the observing entities, not merely acknowledgement of energy signature but specific identification of you personally. This suggests pre-existing relationship transcending current manifestation. Accurate assessment. The observation struck directly at the most troubling implication of recent events. The interdimensional observers hadn't merely detected unusual energy signature but recognized something specific about Naruto's essence, connection predating his current existence. That aligns with what I experienced, he confirmed quietly, though the full implications remain unclear even to me. Samui studied him with penetrating gaze that seemed to assess factors beyond visible evidence. After brief consideration, she nodded once, accepting his answer while clearly continuing internal analysis. Thank you for addressing priority inquiries. Remaining questions can await more appropriate circumstances. With that characteristically efficient conclusion, she prepared to depart, then hesitated momentarily, something almost resembling conventional emotion briefly crossing her composed features. The energy state synchronization experience was illuminating. Beyond analytical value, it provided perspective I had not previously considered regarding multidimensional existence parameters. The statement represented surprising personal disclosure from someone whose professional demeanor typically revealed little beyond analytical assessment. Naruto recognized significant trust implied by such admission. Perspective shifts can be both challenging and valuable, he acknowledged, respecting the underlying vulnerability behind her carefully structured observation. Samui nodded once more before departing, her methodical stride carrying her back toward Kumo's administrative sector where detailed report would undoubtedly be constructed with characteristic precision. Whatever conclusions she had drawn from their shared experience would significantly influence Kumogakure's approach to further interdimensional phenomena. Left alone in his quarters, Naruto final. Why allowed tension to release from shoulders that had maintained rigid control throughout the crisis. The golden pink energy emerged unbidden, flowing around him in elegant patterns that responded to emotional state rather than conscious direction. With each manifestation, the Anodite power integrated more completely with his awareness, less external ability and more fundamental aspect of his nature. The Kumo woman experienced momentary connection to your true essence during the energy synchronization, Kurama observed internally. Her analytical mind continues processing implications beyond what she explicitly questioned. Samui doesn't miss much, Naruto agreed. Her perception during our connection likely revealed more than either of us fully comprehend yet. Her lightning release affinity created unique resonance with the Anodite energy, the Nine Tails noted thoughtfully. Different elemental affinities may interact distinctively with mana frequency patterns. This observatio aligned with patterns Naruto had begun noticing, different chakra natures demonstrating unique resonance characteristics when interacting with the golden pink energy. Mei Terumi's lava release had synchronized differently than Samui's lightning release, suggesting elemental affinities might create specialized connection pathways to the fundamental mana source. Further exploration of this hypothesis would need to wait, however. Physical and mental exhaustion from the array interface demanded recovery period before attempting additional energy manipulation. Despite Anodite Power's apparently limitless theoretical capacity, his partially human form still required basic biological maintenance. Naruto had just settled into meditative rest position when urgent knock sounded at his door. Opening it revealed Charmcaster, her normally composed features animated with scholarly excitement, grimoire clutched in one hand while the other held ancient-looking scroll bearing Kumogakure's official seal. "You need to see this immediately," she stated without preamble, entering his quarters with uncharacteristic urgency. Kumo's restricted archives contained historical record I wasn't expecting to find in Lightning Country. She unrolled the scroll carefully across the room's central table, revealing text and diagrams written in archaic script that predated standardized shinobi notation system. The document's age was apparent from both materials and linguistic style, clearly dating from period before Hidden Village establishment. It's pre-village historical record, Charmcaster explained. Scholarly precision momentarily overtaking social protocol. Specifically, account from mountain ascetics who occupied this region before Kumogakure's founding. They recorded interaction with being they described as golden fox spirit who commanded lightning and spoke through thunder. Naruto studied the ancient text with growing fascination. The linguistic structure might be archaic, but illustrations accompanying the narrative depicted unmistakable imagery, humanoid figures surrounded by golden pink energy with fox-like characteristics, manipulating lightning through gesture rather than conventional hand signs. According to this account, the sorceress continued, barely containing academic excitement, the entity taught mountain ascetics to channel natural energy through their bodhi. The foundation of what eventually developed into lightning release techniques. But most significantly, she indicated specific passage near document's conclusion. They record the entity's state that it would fragment into 9 aspects before returning to slumber within human vessel, awaiting time of awakening when dimensions grew thin. The implications struck Naruto with physical force. Historical documentation specifically connecting Fox entity, golden energy, dimensional thinning, and eventual reawakening within human host. Too specific for coincidence, too accurately prophetic for mere mythology. The scroll dates from approximately 30 generations before Nine Tails first appeared in recorded history, Charmcaster noted, watching his reaction carefully. Long before Sage of 6 Paths allegedly created tailed beasts from 10 tails. She speaks truth, Kurama confirmed internally, the Nine Tails' mental voice carrying unusual reverence. I possess fragments of memory. From before my current consciousness fully formed, impressions of existence preceding Sage's intervention. Teaching lightning manipulation to mountain ascetics exists among those fragments. This core relation between ancient documentation and Kurama's fractured pre-consciousness memories provided compelling evidence supporting the increasingly inescapable conclusion, the golden pink energy awakening. Within Naruto represented return of something that had existed in this world long before current understanding of chakra, something that had deliberately fragmented itself into what eventually became tailed beasts. There's more, Charmcaster continued, opening her grimoire to page filled with symbols matching those found on crystalline artifacts from Kurigakure. These interdimensional recognition protocols I mentioned, they're not merely transit authorizations, they're sovereignty declarations. Specific energy signatures that mark dimensional territories as under protection of particular cosmic entities. And the identifier I transmitted through Kumo's array matched ancient sovereignty protocol registered across multiple dimensions, she confirmed. You didn't construct it, you remembered it. Cosmic muscle memory from your true nature. The concept staggered Naruto's understanding of his own identity. If these correlations proved accurate, his existence transcended not mere human parameters but conventional dimensional limitations, cosmic entity choosing human form through repeated incarnations while fragments of its consciousness evolved separately as tailed beasts. The pieces align with increasing precision, Kurama noted thoughtfully. Your parents' unique abilities, your natural affinity for dimensional perception, the resonance between our chakras exceeding all previous Jinchuriki bonds. Not coincidence but cosmic design. Before Naruto could fully process these implications, another knock interrupted their conversation. Opening the door revealed Samui, her composed exterior betraying nothing of her thoughts as she delivered formal message. Our sensor division reports significant change in dimensional window configurations, she stated with characteristic precision. All observation points have simultaneously shifted from passive monitoring to complete dormancy, energy signatures diminishing below detection threshold. They received confirmation and departed. Charmcaster suggested. Negative, Samui countered. Energy signatures remain present but deliberately suppressed, suggesting concealment rather than withdrawal. Additionally, she hesitated fractionally. Something almost resembling concern briefly crossing her features. 3 new anomalies have manifested at Lightning Country's northern border, different configuration from previous windows. These appear to be actual transit points rather than observation portals. The implications were immediately clear. Whatever had been observing through dimensional windows had a par. Entley received sufficient verification to proceed with actual physical incursion into the shinobi world. The reconnaissance phase had concluded. Direct contact phase had begun. Has anything emerged from these transit points? Naruto asked, already preparing for potential confrontation. Not yet, Samui replied. But energy accumulation patterns suggest imminent activity. The Raikage has ordered establishment of containment perimeters and requests your presence at Emergency Security Council immediately. Naruto exchanged significant glances with Charmcaster, both recognizing escalation Bayo. ND previous interdimensional interactions. Whatever cosmic recognition had occurred during the array interface, it had apparently accelerated timeline for direct contact rather than deterring it. We'll attend immediately, he confirmed. Gathering essential equipment while Charmcaster carefully resealed the ancient scroll for return to Kumo's archives. The historical documentation would require further analysis. But immediate security concerns took priority over academic investigation. As they departed for emergency council session, Naruto couldn't help noticing Samui's analytical gaze AUKUS. Ionally shifting toward the ancient scroll, her exceptional observational capacity having clearly noted its significance despite brief exposure. The blonde kunoichi's mind missed nothing, constantly accumulating information for comprehensive assessment. You recognized the document's content, he noted as they traversed bridge connecting residential sector to Kumogakure's administrative complex. Samui nodded once, neither confirming nor denying specific comprehension level. Historical archives contain numerous references to pre-village spiritual entities. Analytical correlation with current phenomena represents logical investigative approach. The carefully measured response revealed nothing of her personal conclusions while acknowledging reasonable investigative methodology. Typical Kumo approach, gathering information systematically while revealing minimum necessary for operational coordination. They reached the administrative complex as emergency protocols activated throughout Kumogakure. Elite Jonin deploying to defensive positions while civilian population moved efficiently toward shelter areas in mountains' inner chambers. Unlike some villages, chaotic evacuation procedures, Kumo's populace responded with disciplined precision to well-rehearsed security measures. The emergency council had assembled in Kumogakure's central strategy chamber, Darui, and senior command S. Taff gathered around tactical display showing real-time sensor data from northern border region. 3-dimensional projection illustrated the new anomalies, vertical tiers in reality approximately 12 feet tall. Their edges crystallizing into defined doorway-like structures unlike previous amorphous observation windows. Energy signatures match interdimensional frequency patterns established during collection array incident. The sensor division commander reported as they entered. But magnitude has increased exponentially. Power levels suggest capacity for physical transit rather than mere observation. Defensive containment teams are in position, Darui added, indicating tactical deployment around each anomaly. But standard barrier techniques have proven ineffective against previous dimensional phenomena. We need specialized countermeasures if entities attempt crossing. All eyes turned expectantly toward Naruto and Charmcaster, the recognized interdimensional specialists whose unique abilities had addressed previous incursions. The situation had evolved from theoretical discussion to immediate security threat requiring practical response. The transit points appear deliberately constructed rather than natural dimensional tiers, Charmcaster observed, studying the sensor readings with scholarly precision. Controlled breaches designed specifically for regulated passage. Similar to technologies my dimension uses for authorized interdimensional travel. Meaning, prompted impatiently. Whoever created these isn't randomly stumbling between dimensions, she explained. They're deliberately establishing formal transit infrastructure, permanent pathways rather than temporary incursions. Samui immediately grasped strategic implications. Establishing forward OPER, aiding base rather than reconnaissance expedition. Long-term presence rather than exploratory mission. The assessment aligned with military logic, progression from observation to established presence. Represented standard strategic approach when expanding into unknown territory. Whether this expansion represented peaceful contact or hostile incursion remained crucially uncertain. We should attempt Chi communication before assuming hostile intent, Naruto suggested, recalling the recognition he had experienced during the array interface. The dimensional observers responded to specific identifier protocols, suggesting established diplomatic framework exists. I considered this with veterans' pragmatic perspective. Prepared for peaceful contact while positioned for potential conflict, he decided after brief deliberation. Standard containment perimeter maintained while communication attempt proceeds under controlled conditions. This balanced approach satisfied both diplomatic possibility and security necessity, neither naively optimistic nor unnecessarily aggressive. Implementation orders dispersed through Kumogakure's command structure with characteristic efficiency as specialized EAMS prepared for unprecedented interdimensional contact scenario. Primary communication attempt should occur at central anomaly, Samui suggested, analytical mind already mapping optimal approach. Dimensional energy convergence patterns indicate highest stability at that location, communications most likely to maintain integrity across boundary. The tactical recommendation demonstrated her exceptional analytical capabilities, immediately identifying most favorable conditions for complex interdimensional interaction based on minimal precedent. Naruto found himself increasingly impressed by her methodical intelligence as they prepared for deployment to the designated site. Transport to northern border region utilized Kumogakure's specialized lightning transit technique, Shinobi converted temporarily to electrical energy state for near instantaneous movement through conductive network established throughout lightning country territory. The method represented perfect integration of Ural affinity with technological innovation, characteristic of Kumo's practical approach to chakra application. They materialized at forward command post established 2 kilometers from nearest diamond. Sional transit point, containment perimeter visibly encircling anomaly with concentric rings of specialized barrier techniques and elite Jonin positioned at strategic intervals. The transit point itself, manifested as crystalline archway approximately 12 feet tall, within which reality distorted like heat haze above desert sand. No movement detected since formation, the perimeter commander reported as they arrived. But energy readings continue intensifying toward apparent activation threshold. Naruto extended his senses toward the dimensional doorway, golden pink energy enhancing perception beyond conventional parameters. Unlike previous rifts that had torn haphazardly through reality, this structure demonstrated deliberate architectural principles, constructed rather than erupted. Designed for specific transmission parameters rather than uncontrolled breach. It's waiting for formal activation sequence, Charmcaster observed, her magical senses detecting similar patterns. Like locked door requiring specific key, or diplomatic protocol awaiting proper introduction, Naruto suggested, recalling the sovereignty identifier that had registered recognition during the array incident. The crystalline archway's structure incorporated elements matching ancient symbols documented in both Kumo's historical scroll and Charmcaster's grimoire, suggesting connection to established interdimensional transit network. After brief consultation with A and Darui, they approached the anomaly directly, Naruto, Charmcaster, and Samui forming small team combining unique capabilities for this unprecedented contact attempt. Kumo's containment specialists maintained protective barrier around them while sensor division monitored dimensional energy fluctuations with maximum sensitivity. Chi precisely 50 meters from the crystalline archway, energy patterns within the distortion suddenly shifted, reality rippling like disturbed water as something responded to their approach. Not physical movement but awareness. Consciousness registering their presence and assessing. We're being scanned, Charmcaster stated quietly, violet eyes tracking energy patterns invisible to conventional perception. Multiple frequency analysis, they're verifying our identities against established recognition protocols. Samui's analytical mind immediately connected implications. The array transmission provided identification template. Current scan confirms match against that template. The assessment proved accurate as crystalline components within the archway began reconfiguring, geometric pattern. NS shifting into new alignment as internal distortion clarified slightly. Not opening completely but becoming more defined, like window coming gradually into focus. Naruto reached toward the golden pink energy that had awakened within him, allowing it to manifest visibly around his form. Not aggressive display but deliberate identification, presenting the specific energy signature that had registered red recognition during previous encounters. The response was immediate. Crystalline archway illuminating with corresponding golden pink resonance pattern, geometric components rotating into new configuration that stabilized the dimensional aperture. The distortion within cleared sufficiently to reveal vague impressions of landscape beyond, environment unlike anything in Shinobi World, where physics itself appeared to follow different fundamental principles. Then something approached from the other side, figure gradually resolving from abstract energy pattern into more defined form as it neared the boundary between dimensions. Not fully corporeal by conventional standards but sufficiently structured for visual perception to interpret meaningful configuration. It resembled humanoid fox constructed from golden pink energy, simultaneously solid and fluid, its 9 tails flowing like liquid light around form that somehow conveyed ancient dignity despite alien nature. Where eyes should be, G. Galaxies swirled in miniature, cosmos contained within observational organs that perceived across multiple dimensional planes simultaneously. Recognition struck Naruto with physical intensity, not memory. Why in conventional sense but soul-deep knowing, connection transcending conscious recollection to resonate at fundamental identity level. This entity represented aspect of himself that had never been human, fragment of cosmic consciousness that had separated from his original nature during some ancient division. Brother, Kurama whispered within him, the 9 tails mental voice carrying reverence. Naruto had never before witnessed from the normally cynical entity. First divided, the one who remembered while we forgot. The fox entity regarded them from dimensional threshold, making no attempt to cross physically but extending awareness across the boundary. When it communicated, the transmission bypassed conventional language entirely, pure conceptual transfer registering directly in consciousness. Progenitor fragment, awakening progression verified, dimensional sovereignty protocols reactivated. The message carried multiple information layers simultaneously, acknowledgement of Naruto's awakening Anodite nature, confirmation of sovereignty declaration transmitted through Kumo's array, and notification that ancient protection systems had re-engaged across dimensional boundaries. Charmcaster attempted verbal response, her scholarly approach automatically seeking conventional communication framework. We acknowledge contact and seek peaceful information exchange regarding interdimensional activity affecting this world. Quote, the entity's cosmic eyes shifted toward her briefly, assessing with perception that encompassed her entire multidimensional existence simultaneously rather than merely physical form. Its response again manifested as direct conceptual transfer rather than language. Dimensional scholar. Transit authorized under sovereignty protection. Barrier maintenance cooperation acknowledged. Samui, despite having no previous exposure to interdimensional communication, demonstrated remarkable adaptation, her analytical mind immediately developing framework for prose. SSING conceptual transfer despite its non-linguistic nature. Interdimensional incursions threatening this world require coordinated response protocols. Information exchange regarding potential hostile entities would benefit mutual security interests. The fox entity's tails shifted configuration slightly, movement somehow conveying both approval and amusement at her precise analytical approach. IT's response included complex data packet regarding various interdimensional entities potentially attracted to awakening Anodite energy, classification system for threat assessment, and recommended countermeasures specific to each category. Dimensional weakening accelerating. 7 entities approaching. 3 beneficial. 3 neutral. 1 hostile. Preparation required. Naruto processed this info. Machine while simultaneously aware of Kumo's sensor specialists frantically recording energy patterns and Charmcaster translating conceptual data into her grimoire's notation system. The entity was Pr. Oviding critical intelligence regarding imminent interdimensional contacts, some potentially valuable, others presenting significant threat. We appreciate this information exchange, he responded, lowing the golden pink energy to form structured reply that transcended verbal limitation. What is your designation, and what is your relationship to this world? The entity's cosmic eyes fixed directly upon him. Connection deepening beyond mere communication to something approaching partial consciousness merger. In that momentary link, comprehension flooded through Naruto's awareness, understand. That this being represented fragment of original cosmic consciousness that had deliberately remained aware of its nature while other aspects, including what became tailed beasts, had chosen complete immersion in physical experience. Guardian Observer. Designated overseer of divided aspects until reformation. Your awakening activates final reconciliation sequence. The implications staggered Naruto's understanding of both cosmic structure and his own identity. This entity, this Guardian Observer, had maintained dimensional watch throughout millennia while fragments of original consciousness, including himself in human form and the tailed beasts, experienced separated existence. His awakening apparently represented predetermined signal for eventual reunification of these divided aspects. Before he could formulate response to this profound revelation, the crystalline archway pulsed with sudden energy surge, dimensional aperture widening as if responding to external pressure from multiple sources simultaneously. The Guardian Observer's tails flared with defensive energy as its communication became more urgent. Hostiles approaching through adjacent dimensional corridors. Premature interference attempt. Sovereignty protocols activating. The conceptual transmission carried unmistakable warning. Whatever cosmic entities had detected the awakening Anodite energy, not all shared peaceful or neutral intentions. Some apparently sought to interrupt the reconciliation sequence the Guardian Observer had referenced, attempting interdimensional transit without authorization or recognition. Multiple energy signatures detected approaching dimensional boundaries throughout Lightning Country, Samui reported, receiving tactical updates through Kumo's communication system. Patterns. Match hostile classification parameters transmitted by the entity. The situation was escalating beyond diplomatic exchange toward potential interdimensional conflict. Naruto turned toward the Guardian Observer. Golden pink energy flowing around him in response to emerging threat conditions. How do we activate the sovereignty protocols you mentioned? He asked directly, instinctively understand. These represented defense mechanisms against unauthorized dimensional incursion. Instead of conceptual response, the Fox entity extended one energy-constructed paw through the dimensional boundary. Why? Not fully crossing but establishing direct connection bridge between realities. The invitation was clear though unspoken, recognition protocol requiring physical contact to activate dormant systems. Without hesitation, Naruto reached toward the extended appendage, golden pink energy surrounding his hand as it approached the interdimensional contact point. Behind him, he sensed Samui's Analytica L assessment calculating risk factors while Charmcaster's scholarly excitement balanced against cautionary restraint. The moment his fingers touched the Guardian Observer's extended paw, consciousness expanded beyond physical limitations, awareness suddenly encompassing multiple dimensional planes simultaneously, perceiving reality through cosmic rather than human framework. Within this expanded state, Naruto recognized ancient systems dormant throughout the shinobi world, energy networks predating human civilization that had once maintained dimensional boundaries against unauthorized incursion. Understanding flowed without language. These protection systems had deactivated when the original consciousness fragmented, their maintenance requiring unified awareness that no longer existed after division. His awakening Anodite nature provided necessary resonance frequency to reactivate these dormant networks, re-establishing sovereignty protocols that had once protected this dimensional plane. With instinctive recognition rather than learned technique, Naruto channeled golden pink energy through the connection bridge into ancient activation sequences. Throughout Lightning Country, and across the entire shinobi world, dormant protection systems responded, dimensional barriers strengthening against unauthorized transit while allowing recognized entities passage through established protocols. The effect manifested visibly around the crystalline archway as additional geometric components materialized from seemingly empty space, incorporating into existing structure to create sophisticated boundary regulation system. The dimensional aperture stabilized under these enhanced protocols, unauthorized pressure from hostile entities meeting resistance that hadn't existed moments before. Sovereignty re-established. Guardian observance continues. Reconciliation proceeds as destined. With this final transmission, the Fox entity withdrew its energy appendage, gradually wrecked. ing from the dimensional threshold without fully displaying its environment of origin. The crystalline archway remained, now permanently established transit point regulated by sovereignty protocols. T would permit only authorized dimensional crossing. As connection severed, Naruto's consciousness returned to conventional parameters, though permanently altered by the expanded awareness experienced during the brief cosmic linkage. The golden pink energy settled into more balanced integration with his physical form, no longer manifesting unpredictably but responding precisely to intentional direction. Dimensional energy fluctuations have stabilized throughout Lightning Country, Samui reported, receiving updates from Kumo's sensor network. Unauthorized approach signatures have diminished by approximately 87% following protocol activation. Charmcaster stared at Naruto with scholarly fascination barely contained beneath professional composure. You just reactivated interdimensional sovereignty network that predates human civilization, she stated with uncharacteristic emotional undertone. Do you comprehend the cosmic significance of what just occurred? Partially, he acknowledged honestly. Though I suspect complete understanding exceeds current mental framework. This assessment proved accurate as they returned to Kumo's command post to brief A and Darui on unprecedented developments. The dimensional contact had established multiple significant facts with profound implications for both immediate security concerns and long-term cosmic understanding. First, the awakening Anodite energy within Naruto represented return of consciousness fragment that had deliberately divided itself in ancient past, one aspect maintaining guardian observer status while others, including tailed beasts, experienced separate existence through various forms. Second, this awakening had activated predetermined reconciliation sequence, with timeline and parameters beyond current comprehension but apparently cosmic significance transcending individual existence. Third, interdimensional entities had detected this awakening and responded according to various motivations, some beneficial or neutral, others hostile to the reconciliation process for reasons yet unclear. Most immediately relevant from security perspective, the reactivated sovereignty protocols had established dimensional boundaries that would protect against unauthorized incursion while permitting beneficial contact through recognized transit points like the crystalline archway. So this guardian obs RVER entity is what? Cosmic fragment of your original nature that maintained dimensional awareness while you experienced human existence. Darui summarized after lengthy debriefing session. That's our current understanding, Naruto confirmed, recognizing how profoundly strange this explanation must sound to those without direct conceptual transfer experience. I processed this information with V. Iteran's pragmatic approach, focusing on practical implications rather than philosophical complexities. These sovereignty protocols you've reactivated, they'll prevent hostile dimensional entities from entering our world without authorization. They establish regulated boundary conditions, Charmcaster explained, her scholarly expertise translating cosmic concepts into more comprehensible framework. Think of it as immigration system rather than absolute barrier. Entities can still request transit, but must follow established protocols rather than forcing entry. Samui, who had been systematically analyzing all available information, offered characteristic precise assessment. Tactical advantage assessment. Dimensional security infrastructure has improved significantly while maintaining beneficial contact potential. Strategic position enhancement without corresponding resource expenditure. This efficiently practical evaluation perfectly encapsulated Kumogakure's approach, calculating security benefit while acknowledging potential knowledge acquisition opportunity. Whatever cosmic implications might eventually emerge, immediate practical advantages represented positive development from village perspective. As tactical discussion continued into evening, Naruto found moment to step outside command post, absorbing remarkable mountain vista while processing profound identity cations from Guardian Observer encounter. The golden pink energy flowed calmly beneath his skin, no longer foreign element but increasingly integrated aspect of his fundamental nature. The first divided spoke truth. Kurama commented internally. What you experienced as childhood, adolescence, and adulthood represented predetermined path toward awakening, cosmic consciousness experiencing human perspective through deliberate immersion. Quote, that doesn't make those experiences any less real, Naruto countered quietly. No, the Nine Tails agreed with uncharacteristic philosophical depth. Perha. P.S. That was precisely the purpose, to experience limitation fully before remembering limitlessness. This perspective offered integration pathway between human identity and cosmic nature, not opposing aspects but complementary experiences. Each providing value the other couldn't access alone. The reconciliation sequence apparently didn't require abandoning human perspective but incorporating it into expanded awareness. Your neural patterns have altered since the contact event. Naruto turned to find Samui standing nearby, her analytical observation delivered with characteristic directness. Despite spending hours in tactical discussion, her appearance remained immaculate, Kumo's disciplined professionalism personified. Neural patterns, he questioned. Micro-expressions, pupillary response variations, subtle chakra fluctuation frequencies, she elaborated precisely, collectively indicating significant consciousness parameter expansion beyond standard human baseline. The observatee, demonstrated her exceptional perception, noticing physiological changes imperceptible to conventional assessment. More significantly, her analytical framework had immediately accommodated these unprecedented developments without fundamental restructuring, exceptional mental adaptability beneath composed exterior. You're not wrong, Naruto acknowledged. The contact experience altered perception parameters in ways I'm still integrating. Samui nodded once, accepting this confirmation without visible emotional response, though subtle chakra fluctuation suggested genuine intellectual fascination beneath professional demeanor. Logical progression given interdimensional consciousness transfer protocols experienced during the interface. Adaptation rather than fundamental transformation. Our framing provided helpful perspective, viewing the changes as adaptive integration rather than identity replacement. The distinction carried significant psychological benefit as Naruto navigated singly cosmic implications of his awakening nature. Your analytical framework has accommodated these developments with remarkable efficiency, he observed, genuine appreciation coloring his tone. Quote, many would find such fundamental paradigm shifts destabilizing. Something almost resembling emotion briefly crossed Samui's composed features, appreciation for recognition of her exceptional cognitive flexibility. Efficient analysis requires expandable parameter framework. Fixed conceptual limitations impede accurate threat assessment and opportunity identification. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.